gonna make a resolution.
He only does the best here in communications and marketing.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our City Commission meeting on Wednesday night, July 15th. Call to order, and we'll start with roll call.
Thank you. Mayor Brooke.
Here.
Vice Mayor Carter.
Present.
Commissioner Sarah.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Vignola.
Present.
Commissioner Simmons.
Here.
City Manager Babinick.
Here.
City Attorney Hearn.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know these are unusual times, strenuous times. We're going to have a great meeting. We're going to share with you some good information. We look forward to the public comments. All the public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. So if you're waiting to be heard a public comment, please make sure you limit your comments to 3 minutes. As a preface, we may or may not respond directly to each commenter. We typically don't, and we ask you to wait until we hear commission comments and city manager comments for any particular response, if there is one forthcoming. I got to wave my hand so you have the light sensor here. We're going to start with a moment of silence before Matt Hoffman leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to rise for both. Thank you. So Matt, if you'd be kind enough to lead us in the pledge, that'd be great. And you got to unmute.
I'm going to go ahead and do it for us, Mayor. I'm not
Great.
sure that Matt's
for
able to do it. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Would you like a t-shirt? I'll get you one.
I'd love one.
We'll make it happen, Lynn. No problem. John, if you'll read the virtual meeting statement.
Thank you, Mayor. This virtual meeting is going to be held in accordance with the Coral Springs Resolution 2020-16. Due to the ongoing state of emergency and the recommendations from all public health authorities, including the governor's executive orders, the city of Coral Springs recommends that all persons view and participate in the meeting through electronic means. This meeting can be viewed on City TV, Blue Stream Channel 725, 25, 25.7, and AT&T Uverse Channel 99. Online at coralsprings.org/citytv and can be heard on City Radio at 1670 AM. For those individuals who may not have access to view the meeting by any of the virtual means provided above, the city is providing access to view the meeting on City TV outside the Coral Springs Municipal Complex at 9500 West Sample Road, Coral Springs, Florida. If you are there and plan on attending, please practice social distancing, wear a mask, and do not stand closer than 6 feet to those around you. My understanding, Mayor, that we do have some people outside right now. Public comment will be received by phone and email, and we do have several speakers today, as you mentioned. The local call number is 954-344-5900. If you want to submit a written public comment, we're monitoring that. Please complete the form located at coralsprings.org/public comment. For those attending the physical live stream at City Hall, a method is being provided for you now for public comment. Thank you, Mayor. Your meeting.
Great. Thank you very much, John. So we have no recognitions. We'll go right into public comment. Deborah, if you allow the first speaker to announce themselves, and for those of you that are coming in from the public to speak, please let us know your name and your address, and welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. We have at least 21 people signed up to speak, and currently, for the record, no one is outside waiting to speak. Okay. So what we will do is Robert will be connecting the first speaker.
Great. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Deborah.
All right, Mayor, we have our first caller on the line.
Hello, my name is Lisa Johnston. I live in the city of Coral Springs. I would prefer not to give my address over the air, but it is online because I registered for this call.
I have been
in the city for over 40 years. Hello?
I said, I think not giving your address over the phone is fine.
Yeah, thank you. It is registered though. I've lived in the city for over 40 years, and the reason I was calling was to get some verification on a few things. I have not heard what you are going to do with our PD. I have no family members who work there, but I am concerned as a resident in this city and a homeowner that our services are not cut by the PD. No one loves the police, but we do need their services. And I know that it has come to my attention that some think, well, we won't defund, but we may cut back on their perks or benefits, whatever you want to call them, that would assure that we have quality PD coming, candidates that will come. The other thing, and I'm, again, not a fan of Mike Levinson, the previous city manager, but since he's been gone, our city services have not been the same. They really have gone downhill. And we are seeing it with our garbage pickup. We are seeing it with the hurricane cleanup that was 3 weeks out. Mike Levinson maintained one thing well in this city. He made sure as homeowners, we are the ones that pay the taxes in this city. I get that other landlords who own apartment complexes do, but other people don't. They may rent in the city, but they're not paying your taxes. We get the big tax bills and we pay them. And we're happy to pay them because we've always had quality service, but we have not seen that quality service. And if you do not believe me, buy a Ring video camera and get in the neighborhood. People are moving. People are leaving at record numbers because they do not like what we are seeing happening in this city. This city is not the way it used to be or the way it was intended to run. And we have new people on the commission and everyone has some new ideas, but they have forgotten it's the homeowners. It's us. We are the ones that pay the bill and we want to see the services restored. And we want to know that when it comes time to negotiate with PD, they're not going to play games. There'll be no games. They're not going to short them and make them want to quit or leave or not hire good quality people. We are the homeowners in this city, and we really do feel like we've been getting shortchanged. It isn't just me. I see people and read it daily who want to move from the city. I'm one of them. I would love to move, but I'm a business owner. I can't. I was raised in this city, and I loved this city, but not anymore. It's not the city. It's not the same city it used to be. It has not progressed. It's actually declined. Thank you for hearing me. Thank you for the time. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You have a nice evening, Lisa. Our next speaker, please, Deborah.
Robert will assist us. Thank you.
Please don't press anything by accident.
I have the next caller on the line, Mr. Mayor.
Great. Thank you, Bob.
Hi, my name. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Samira Hindu, and I'm a student at FAU. I live in Cobblestone Walk, right here on Royal Palm and Coral Springs Drive. And I wanted to talk to you guys today about recent events with social issues, Black Lives Matter and stuff. What we're doing as a city to help our Black community, and also voter engagement with more people, I would say my age and younger, because I see when I go to the voting polls that there's no one my age. There's always like older people. So just what we can do as citizens, me and my family, to help both Black lives and voter engagement and things like this, just being more involved with the community, what we can do to help.
Great. Really appreciate hearing from you. If you didn't give your address in writing, we do need it at this time.
Oh, okay. My address is 101 774 Royal Palm Boulevard, Coral Springs, Florida, and 33065.
Great. And as I shared at the head of the meeting, Typically, we don't respond to each public commenter, but what we will do is after you're done and everybody else from the public, there'll be a time for the commission and city management to be heard and potentially address your questions. If for some reason your question still isn't addressed, you can call me in my office, 344-5906. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
And Bob, you have the third speaker coming up, correct? And Deborah, if you ever can't get a name, just let me know and we'll ask them to repeat.
I do have forms filled out for
Great.
everyone, I believe.
Awesome.
And to keep you up to date, the assistant city clerk is outside and she keeps me up to date. Continues, no one's outside lining up to speak.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Mayor, we are on the line with the next caller.
Thank you.
Yes.
Deborah, if you ever can't get a name, just let me know and we'll ask them to repeat. Guess we had a little echo there. The public commenter is
There's a delay. Yeah.
one of the things we have to be during
Okay.
COVID is
The
patient.
next caller is on the line.
Okay, great. Just making sure everyone can hear me.
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. Hello, commissioners. My name is Marissa Hecker, and I'm a resident of Pompano Beach, and I have filled out a previous comment card that has my address on it. And I just want to really genuinely thank you so much for opening this meeting to us tonight. It's really important that you hear our voices and, you know, consider what we have to say. My topic is particularly about agendas 3 and 4, and why I urge you to vote no to them. So, starting off, regardless of politics, everyone on this call can agree to one thing. We need to rebuild trust between police and community in Coral Springs. Spending even more money on rubber bullets, military equipment, and firearms, as per agendas 3 and 4, does not create trust. It pushes your citizens away and makes them feel unheard. There is a better way to respond to protests about police brutality than with more police brutality. Your willingness to hear us tonight means that you are willing to explore other options. We want to see you investing in and exploring programs that send medics and mental health counselors before cops. And Mayor Brooke, I see that you started the Mental Wellness Networking Alliance last year. So I see that you could be particularly sensitive to the topic of mental health concerns in Coral Springs. In Coral Springs, most calls made to the police department are for people experiencing a mental health emergency. And I'm sure you have heard of or know of the Cahoots program that has been really instrumental helping out cities like Portland, New York, Detroit, Chicago. So we've seen the biggest increase in positivity in Portland and helping to rebuild that trust between police and community. Just a few statistics. Cahoots stands for Crisis Assistance Helping Out in the Streets. It's been in Portland for over 30 years. The population of Portland is nearly 700,000 people. Coral Springs population is nearly 200,000 people. If Portland's population, which is over 3 times the population of Coral Springs, can reduce police militarization and prioritize mental health, then we can do it too. Cahoots actually saves the city of Eugene almost $9 million in public safety costs every year. And Portland's crime rate has been on a steady decline ever since December 2019. Here's a quote from the White Bird Clinic, who is one of the founders of Cahoots. In 30 years, there has never been a serious injury of a Cahoots worker, and that is not because we've been lucky. That's what showing up unarmed does. So, the final comment, just please show your Coral Springs community, your taxpayers, like a previous caller mentioned, and essential workers, that you are prioritizing our safety. We do not need more weapons. We do not need more rubber bullets. We do not need more militarization of the police. We need more peace. And we need a willingness to cooperate with your citizens. Please vote no on agendas 3 and 4. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome, Marissa. Thank you for coming. You will be hearing about our looking into the Cahoots program later on in the program. Our next speaker.
Thank you.
Please stand by, Mayor.
Sure.
Mr. Mayor, I have the next caller on the line.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Alexandra Laplane. I'm a resident of and registered voter in Coral Springs and have been since 1994. I've completed the online form with my contact information. Thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts. Thank you. My comments tonight are in regards to agenda items 3 and 4. I strongly oppose the city accepting the Edward Byrne Justice Assistance Grant federal funding. The proposed JAG funds are earmarked for weapon conversion kits, rubber bullets, and other quote-unquote crowd control equipment. These proposed funds and the subsequent intent to use these weapons against peacefully assembling Coral Springs residents are a clear response to the rise of protests against police brutality and systemic racial injustice throughout the world. Accepting these funds would in no way be considered a community-centered or residents-first decision, but as an excessive, militarized response to what has only been peaceful assembly in our community, protected fully by the First Amendment. We demand that the commissioners vote no on 3 and 4, and instead seek federal funding for programs that would better represent the needs of this specific community. For example, allocating part of the budget to incorporating trained medical health professionals to be first responders to medical health emergency calls rather than the police, especially given that a significant number of calls to the Coral Springs Police Department are Baker Act related. In lieu of investing in tools of violence, we must begin investing in community building strategies if we want our community to truly be safe and strong. I thank you very much for the time.
You're welcome.
Mayor,
Yes.
I just want to ask that.
Stand by for the next caller.
Hold on, Bob. Commissioner Bignola has a question.
I'd like to ask if the city manager can chime in on these purchases. I know someone said that it was in response to protests. If we can just get some clarification on that up front, I would really appreciate that.
Yeah, so Frank, if it's okay with you, I'm happy to let you share a little bit at this time and have anybody else share. If you'd rather hear from all the public first, that'd be okay too. It's up to you, Frank.
Mr.
Mayor, go ahead, Josh. Sorry.
I think it's
Commissioner
important
Simmons.
to let the people speak and get it out the way. Let them speak. Let them not get out the way in like a negative, dismissive way, but just let everybody speak so that they can get out their points and their comments. We don't want to seem like we're being combative or refuting them or anything like that. I think just let people speak, and then whatever information staff has to present, then go on that note. And I may be alone on that, but I think we should just let public comment go forward.
Yeah, so I had shared with Frank as we briefed for the meeting. Does he want the opportunity to, talk about any of the items beforehand? And at that time, his preference was yes, like you said, to let everybody be heard first. So I'm just asking Frank if that's still his preference. If it is, I'm going along with Frank's preference.
Mayor, we're prepared to brief on the items at the conclusion of public comment.
Sounds good. You got it, Frank. Thank you.
My concern is that if there is any confusion, that way we clarify that up front for not only the people that are calling, but also for our residents that are watching at home. I don't want anyone to think that this was in response to any type of protest that took place in or around our community.
I hear you. Yeah, so Bob, we'll go to the next member of the public that would like to be heard.
And we have the next caller on the line right now.
Good evening. My name is Claudia Corrali. I live in Oak Brook, and my address is registered on the form that I applied to speak tonight.
Welcome,
I'm an
Claudia.
18-year resident. Thank you. I would like to voice my appreciation for the work the Coral Springs Police Department does, and that I fully support the officers who offer the thin blue line between order and chaos. I would like my tax dollars used to support the work they do to keep them and residents safe from harm. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. Good night.
Thank you for being here, Claudia.
Okay, turn it on.
Please stand by for the next caller. And we have the next caller on the line.
Good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay?
I think it sounds like Nancy.
Yes, it is. Hi,
Got
everyone.
it.
My name is Nancy Mateer, and my address is 9833 Northwest 54th Place, Coral Springs, Florida. Good evening, Coral Springs Commission and Mayor Scott Brook. My
Good evening.
concerns are regarding COVID-19. Coral Springs cases have been increasing steadily, and there have been conversations regarding ending testing. One, I would like to hear more about what the future plans are for Coral Springs in response to this. And then lastly, I would like to express that there are folks on today's public comments who will be speaking on agenda items 3 and 4. And I hope you all, the commission, will keep an open mind regarding next steps moving forward. At the end of the day, we are a city and we want what's best for our community. Thank you all for listening to my comments, and I hope you all have a great evening.
Mayor, before Nancy goes anywhere, can I get clarification on what she asked about testing? She cut out. I just want to make sure I heard it right.
Yeah, Nancy, if you can just repeat that.
Sure. I want to say that I have some concerns about COVID-19 and the increases here in Coral Springs. There has been conversations about ending testing, and I would like to know what the city's plans are moving forward in regard to this new discovery.
Sure, we'll make sure we address that after public comment, Nancy. And thanks for being a regular public commenter.
Thank you all. I hope you all have a good evening.
You too.
Stand by for the next caller.
And for those of you listening and waiting to be heard, we appreciate you keeping your comments to under 3 minutes.
All right, Mr. Mayor, we have the next caller on the line.
Great. Good evening. Please state
Hi, I'm Hannah Carson. Hi, I'm Hannah Carsonell. I registered to speak at this meeting online, and I provided my address on the form online.
Thank you.
As a Black woman within the Parkland Coral Springs community, I feel extremely unsafe. Lately, I've been thinking about the hate crime I endured as a 13-year-old a lot. I was a year younger than the Black girl that the Coral Springs Police Department punched in the kidneys 2 years ago. When such horrid incidents are recorded on video, it leaves me wondering what's gone on at night when no one's around. It makes me wonder if I'll be next. I've been losing sleep because I'm so fearful that speaking out about systemic racism within the policing system will lead to me facing brutality. And considering agenda items 3 and 4, which allocate funding for military equipment to the Coral Springs Police Department, I'm reasonably fearful. Now is the time for this community to move forward and bring everyone to the table so we can make the right choices that will ensure a better community for all of us. Allocating almost $30,000 in funds for military equipment will not make this community a safer place. I'm confused as to who exactly police within the community are protecting and serving, so I feel it's only right that we defund police and redistribute their funds toward an increase in funding of mental health resources, such as Cahoots in Oregon, and after-school programs which will make our communities safer. These programs have been known to reduce crime and thus make the jobs of law enforcement easier. Frankly, I'm unsure of why anyone would be against implementing them. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah.
Thanks.
Stand by for the next caller. And we have the next caller on the line, Mr. Mayor.
Great, thank you. If you are attempting to speak, you are muted currently. I apologize if it's on our end.
Okay, so I can still watch the stream.
Welcome. Please let us know your name and address.
Okay. Well, hello, good evening. My name is Kadeem Rowe. My address is already reported, but I live in Coral Springs, Westview Village. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, thank you.
Okay. And I was speaking on agenda points 3 and 4. I specifically organized a protest in Coral Springs recently. And I just wanted to, I know it's been peaceful, the police have been cooperating, all of that. I just don't understand why the amendments are needed. I understand that it's a grant. I feel like we should be applying for grants that benefit the community and help officers handle crime within our community. And I just don't understand why. I guess it's just politics. It's involved. So I wanted to be involved in expressing that I would like for my city commissioners to vote no against amendments like this because of what some speakers have already said. I don't believe that it shows our community in a good light, and I don't think it will better our police, protect our police or our community. And I mean, maybe it would have been good for city commissioners to speak in between the points, I guess, to maybe clarify anything so that we're not just wasting breath reiterating something that you already understand. But in the event that you don't, I just wanted it to be clear that I believe that there is some form of systemic racism in this country that can extend into our community. And I believe that if Black people in the community, I'm a Black man as well, if a Black person in the community or Black people in the community feel as though police are already kind of oppressing or are being extra militarized or forceful with them, I don't think that passing something like this during this time, in this climate, would be a good response. And I just think it would be a bad light on the community itself at a time like this where we're looking at a lot of scrutiny in the police and our city officials. So I was just saying that, my responsibility as a voting citizen is to express these concerns. And so I just was doing my due diligence and getting on the call and being involved. And thank you for the time.
We appreciate hearing from you, trust me. And one of the primary reasons that we typically don't go back and forth during this time is so that we avoid duplication and we avoid debates. But we're going to do our best to answer every question that's being posed by anyone regarding anything in public comment shortly thereafter. And thank you for being here.
All right, thank you.
Please stand by for the next caller. And I have the next caller on the line.
Great, welcome.
Hi, my name's Amit Dadone. I'm a graduate of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. I've grown up here in Broward County, spent my whole life here pretty much. And I just wanted to call to express my opposition to agenda items 3 and 4 for the JAG grants for about $30,000. I don't believe, as other speakers have said, that this is something that we should be doing right now. We don't need to militarize the police more. We shouldn't be using taxpayer money to further purchase things like rubber bullets and military equipment in Coral Springs. There's no need for that. It's not something that makes us safer. And we should instead be putting that money back into the community, both this $29,000 specifically, but money in addition to that. We shouldn't be having a city where we still have, problems with people making ends meet. We have problems with people getting proper health care, people getting affordable housing, and things like that. But we're spending, $59 million on police. We have 2/5 of our budget being for police, and that's not something that's right for us to be doing. We should be focusing more on, investing more in social services, investing more in social work, rather than, getting police more rubber bullets and military equipment. We need to be investing more in our education and our schools to make sure kids have books and free lunches. We shouldn't be investing in rubber bullets and military equipment for police. We just really don't, I just don't think this is the right thing to do. We should be having more of a reckoning with how we are addressing policing in our community, in our city, in our county in general. And this is not the way we should be going. We should be looking into more restorative justice programs. We should be looking into more violence intervention programs, into more social workers. And, things like rubber bullets and military equipment for our police is just not the right decision right now. And I strongly urge that you all vote no on agenda items 3 and 4. Do not accept these federal dollars. And if anything, we should be moving in the opposite direction. We should be demilitarizing our police and investing more in the communities instead. That's how we build safer and stronger communities. And that's how we keep each other safe and healthy and get our educations and make ends meet, not by over-policing our communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stand by for the next caller. And I have the next caller on the line, Mr. Mayor.
Great, welcome.
Hey, good evening. This is Randall Cutter, 12655 Northwest 17th Place in Coral Springs, pastor of New Dawn Community Church. I've been kicking around Coral Springs since 1987. My greetings to you, Mr. Mayor, to the Vice Mayor, Commissioners, and to the most esteemed city staff. I'm speaking tonight about the discussion that was started at the last commission meeting by one of the current candidates for the Coral Springs Commission and that's about reallocating resources away from the Coral Springs Police Department. I'm extremely concerned about this effort and what we've already heard tonight. We have an amazing police department, and Coral Springs is among the safest cities in Florida as a result. The vast majority of our police budget is personnel related. If we cut the budget, we will of necessity need to cut the personnel as well as training and equipment purchases that keep our officers safe. On February 14th, 2018, our police department was able to go into Stoneman Douglas when others would not. They were willing to go in because we have incredible officers who understand what it is to protect and defend. They were able to go in because of the amazing training they have received over the years and the equipment we have been able to provide for them. And they were able to save 17 lives because of the first aid and stop the bleed kits that had been purchased for their vehicles and for which they were well trained in use. If we did not have the proper personnel, equipment, and training, that awful day would have been even more awful. I believe we need to support our department's continued efforts to give our officers the best equipment, such as the ballistic plates and other items that they are requesting this evening. Our officers they have demonstrated again and again that they are here to protect and defend. They need the training and the resources, not only so that they can be kept safe as they do their job, but so that they can continue to keep this community safe. I am concerned and very concerned that those who are calling for this reallocation of funds may have an unconscious anti-police bias. If they did not have this bias, I believe they'd only be calling to add the programs and resources they think are necessary for our city without asking that the very police department that has helped make Coral Springs one of the safest cities in the state have funds diverted away. Whether they have this bias or not, I believe it is inappropriate to risk the lives of our residents on an unproven civic experiment. I ask that you continue to support the Coral Springs Police Department at levels appropriate to sustain their continued excellence. And my personal thanks to the men and women of the Coral Springs Police Department for all they do. And thank you for your time this evening. Have a good night.
Thank you, Randall. You as well. Everybody's under time. I appreciate that.
All right, Mayor, stand by for the next caller. And I have the next caller on the line. I have the next call on the line, Mr. Mayor.
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Shannon Matthew. I'm a resident of Coral Springs. I'm currently a law student. I went to Country Hills, Coral Springs Middle, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. I just wanted to speak on agenda items 3 and 4 and how you should vote no on these items. Please do not accept these federal dollars. We do not want our police departments to be militarized. The Coral Springs Police Department budget is $59 million per year, and that's 41% of the city's overall budget. I strongly encourage you to support programs such as restorative justice programs, as well as transformative justice programs, to reinvest those resources into community-led initiatives. We do not need the police to be militarized, and especially as a response to protests of racism, especially in this climate and what's going on with COVID, and how cases are rising in Broward and in Coral Springs. So I strongly encourage you, the commissioners, mayor, to read, to educate yourselves on transformative justice programs that have supported and have reinvested resources into these communities, especially for Brown and Black community members.
Shannon, where do you go to law school?
I go to law school at Northeastern University in Boston. I'm
Oh,
currently
that's
here
awesome.
with my family.
Well, congratulations on your success and thank you for being present tonight, Shannon.
Thank you.
Okay, stand by for the next caller, please. Okay, Mr. Mayor, we have the next caller on the line.
Great. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Jack Toussaint. I am I've put my address on the form. And yeah, so first I want to say thank you for having me. And also just wanted to speak about agenda items 3 and 4. So I am opposed to those agenda items. And I do want to say that first, I do think the police have a role to play in our safety. However, I don't think that this grant should be used towards more weapons. Right? So I'm not calling to completely disband the police department, but I think there is a misconception that that an increase in funding for that increases the militarization of police actually is correlated with lower crime rates. Right? So there are plenty of studies that show crime rates decreasing, even as police budgets either stay the same or police budgets grow at an enormous pace that is not tied to the decrease in crime. So there's also the increase in funding for services tied to mental health programs, behavioral programs. And so it brings me to my next point, and that, so reading about this grant, I noticed that you can also allocate those funds towards behavioral programs, crisis intervention teams, and mental health programs. So given that the majority of the calls that Coral Springs Police receive are mental health emergencies, why not allocate those funds towards mental health instead of more weapons? And more about the studies, there are continually more studies that show police officers spend between 40 and 50% of their time on non-criminal activities. So it's hard for, at least for me, to see a justification in increasing the amount of military style equipment that we need when the vast majority of their activities are non-criminally related. But again, thank you for your time. And yeah, I appreciate all you do.
You're very welcome. And your first name is Jack, is that right?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You too.
Okay, stand by for the next caller, please. No. Mr. Mayor, I have the next caller on the line.
Thank you, Bob. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Pedro Guzman. I prefer not to give my address because I listed it on the form that I filled out earlier.
No problem.
And like past callers, I'm calling to urge you to vote no on items 3 and 4 on the agenda today. There's no reason to accept almost $30,000 that will be used to further militarize our police department. A majority of the calls that come into CSPD are for people experiencing mental health emergencies. There's no reason for police to respond to situations like this. With the recent Black Lives Matter protests going on in our country, it's pretty clear that people are calling for police departments to be defunded and for money to be reinvested into our communities. So I ask that you divest from the police department and reinvest money into community-led initiatives to better address mental health issues in our community, to better fund education, and to look into restorative justice programs. Again, I urge you to vote no on items 3 and 4 to defund our police department and to invest in our community. Thanks for listening. I yield my time.
You're welcome, Pedro. Thank you.
Stand by for the next caller. Mr. Mayor, we have the next caller on the line.
Welcome.
Hi. So while I'm listening to the other callers, my heart got a bit pounding, so I'm a little bit out of breath. So I apologize if I sound a little bit convoluted. But anyway, I wanted to call and to just speak of my support of the police. I'm a mother of 2. I'm sorry, go ahead.
What is your name?
Oh, Andreina Hernandez.
Okay, thank you. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. So yes, I'm a mother of 2. I have 2 young children, and I speak to a lot of other moms in school and daycare. My son is now going to start kindergarten, my eldest, and I've talked to a lot of mothers that, no longer in the parks, but, at schools and everything. And I know a lot of mothers and other families like me are, agree with me that we are very happy with our police. We're happy that we have a safe city. We have no problems with any of the current events, things that are happening miles away in other cities and other states. Coral Springs is safe. We love it here because of that. We have professional, very well-trained police. I have never had a bad encounter with them. They have training. They are polite. They live in this community. They are part of this community, a very diverse community. Like me, I'm an immigrant. I've been living in the U.S. for around 10 years, and I'm very lucky to live in Coral Springs and in this country, and I love it. And I just feel like the police are getting a lot of heat. Some departments should be getting a lot of heat, some officers more so than the whole department. But I vouch for the cops here. I think that if they need rubber bullets in case something does happen, it's a non-deadly method of crowd control. I do not see why we would not give it to them. We don't want them to use, actual live fire if they could avoid it. And I don't know, this department has done a great job. They went to Stoneman Douglas. I was here when that happened, and it was terrifying. I was terrified of my children getting gone down in schools, and this should not happen. But sadly, this is the country we live in, where school shooters happen. And those parents, maybe a couple of those people that called, they sounded pretty young. They're still probably, teenagers or just in college. They might not remember, they might see it differently. But I know all the parents, all the people my age, we were terrified. And that was horrible. And I was so happy and so proud that we have those officers that were able to go in there and take charge the way they did, or BSO did not. And I was happy to know that if I'm at a mall and a mall shooter comes in, that they'll be able to come, and that's because they have the training. We live in a world where that kind of stuff happens, and if the police do not have that kind of training to come into a situation like that, where there's a shooter with assault rifles or with knives or whatever the weapon they may use, if they don't have the training, who's going to come help us? I understand that other social services are important, but we do not need to take from the police, especially ours, because our police has not been doing anything wrong. So why do we need to punish them? Just like all immigrants aren't this or all immigrants aren't that. Like me, I'm many things that many of my, the people from my country are not. And they are many things that I am not. We cannot just blanket all police officers and say they all need defunding. They all need to not get this. They all need to not get that. But anyways, just going back to Springs, our police has been doing a great job. They have nothing to do with all this stuff that's happening. And me and a lot of other mothers that are too busy taking care of their children, putting them to sleep or whatever, other parents that to have the time to come and call, agree.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, you too.
Please stand by for the next caller. Mr. Mayor, we have the next caller on the line.
Good evening, Commissioners. How are you doing? This is Ian Dunn. I live in the city of Cold Spring since '94. I already put my address on the online public comment form. I would like to speak on agenda items 3 and 4. Given the social justice that's been happening all across the country, whether it's Minneapolis or here in Fort Lauderdale, I just don't believe the money we're going to be getting from these grants should be a good idea to militarize our police department. Not that I have any qualms about the police department, I just don't think it's a good idea to use these funds for those kinds of reasons. And I'm encouraging the City Commission to vote no on agenda items 3 and 4. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, you too.
And stand by for the next caller. Okay, Mr. Mayor, we have the next caller on the line.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lucas Lucien. I am a current student at Stillman Douglas High School and the chapter lead for Marshall Parkland. I'm calling today to ask that you oppose amendments 3 and 4, which will be JAG grants to further buy rubber bullets and less lethal shotguns in our city. I ask that you oppose these because as we've seen across America, police have been, reacting to these protests in violent ways. Even in Fort Lauderdale, you've seen instances where police officers have been, using these rubber bullets and blinding people. And I ask that we don't invest in these rubber bullets. We should instead invest in our community. A lot of people in this meeting are bringing up the fact of Stillman Douglas. And as a current student, I ask that, we don't invest in the police. Even after the incident 2 years ago, we've seen countless amounts of untreated mental health in our schools, in our society, and in our city. And so we shouldn't be investing more in police. We should be investing in mental health, education, and youth services, because police have 41% of our city's budget. They have enough money, and this $28,000 in JAG grants, it will not be used to prevent the next mass shooting. It will just be used to shoot the next peaceful protester in the eye with rubber bullets. And so I ask that you oppose this amendment and vote against it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, stand by for the next caller, please.
Mayor, did you have the last speaker's name? I didn't catch it.
I did not. He just indicated he's a current student at MSD. And I'm sorry I didn't ask. If he's still around, we'd love to have him repeat his name. So,
okay. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have his name. It was Logan Ruberstein.
Logan
Ruberstein.
Okay, Ruberstein. Okay.
And I also have the next caller on the line.
Good evening. My name is Katie Hardy. I am a resident of Coral Springs. My address is listed on the form that was sent in. I grew up in the city of Coral Springs, and now I am raising my 2 children here in Coral Springs. The reason I remained in the city is because I truly know that my family is safe. From police to fire rescue services, I know that during the worst of times, they will be there for residents, providing the highest level of service. I regularly watch these meetings to better understand the city operations. In listening to public comments, what I have realized tonight is that these residents who have been calling in have little knowledge of our police department and what they do to serve and protect our community, especially when it comes to serving the physically challenged. This includes toy drives, food drives, autism awareness programs, Safety Town for our children, police-run summer camps, Explorer programs, which I was once one. More importantly, they are here during the worst times. What I do know is this commission regularly uses grant opportunities like the JAG grant agenda items 3 and 4 to ensure our officers are well-trained, well-equipped, and well-prepared to respond to incidents like the one at MSD. I do not believe any one of the callers know what the funds will actually be used for. You as a commission are responsible for the safety and welfare of all residents of this community, not the few who were provided scripts to push the agenda of others through. What I would like to share with you is this. I am the wife of a police officer. He is the father of my children. You are responsible for ensuring he has the tools, training, and equipment needed to come home to his family every single day. While he is protecting you, I expect you to protect him through policy and decision-making. The oath he and other police officers took is to protect and serve our communities. In order to do so, you as city leaders must support them. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, stand by for the next caller.
And while we're waiting, Deborah, do you know how many other signed speakers there are?
Yes, Mayor, I do. We have 2 signed speakers remaining. We have one that requested their comment be read into the record. There is no one outside waiting to speak.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have the next caller on the line.
Great.
Hello, Mr. Mayor. My name is Ed DeRosa.
Hi,
my
Ed.
address has been given. Hello. My address has been given, but I am a resident of the city. I want to appreciate you allowing us this opportunity to speak. And I just wanted to make a brief statement. As the commissioners know, the Coral Springs Police Department's response to the demonstrations and the protests in the wake of the George Floyd incident have been exemplary. We have not had any incidents of force being used, and everyone has had their opportunity to be heard. The police officers, the Coral Springs Police Department, are well trained and prepared for any eventuality, whether it be Douglas or to see that people's rights are observed within the Constitution of the United States. I think that these amendments are crucial for law enforcement to be well trained and well equipped to deal with any eventuality. I don't see them as a militarization of the police department. I feel that they are just equipment that is necessary for us to perform our jobs on a day-to-day basis. Also, speaking from experience, I think that our mental health program within Coral Springs Police Department is at the forefront of Broward County. Our CIT teams go to these Baker Act calls, which several of the callers have mentioned, and they perform their jobs beyond what could be expected of any person going to these calls. There is an inherent risk to these officers that are responding to these calls. This is why police go to them. And I think that these callers just do not have all the facts when they're presenting this information to you. And I hope that the commission, as I know that you have supported the police department, will continue to support the police department. And I appreciate your time. I yield the rest of it.
You're welcome, Ed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, we actually had one additional speaker in the queue. A few of these speakers have not submitted a form, therefore I do not have their contact information.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, we have the next caller on the line.
Great. Thank you.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, my name is Paul Kopinski. My address 2801 Coral Springs Drive. Thank you for having me. I hope everyone is doing well despite these difficult times. I wanted to take a moment to speak out against any notion that we should defund our police department. My family and I have lived here for over 30 years. I cannot remember a time while growing up in Coral Springs that I didn't feel safe in our community or our local schools. While our city's grown, crime trends around South Florida have certainly changed. Coral Springs remains a very safe city, ranked 24th safest in Florida from a 2020 report and 32nd safest nationwide from 2019. While I felt safe for the majority of my time in Coral Springs, there was certainly a time when I was anything but. Several years back, I was the victim of an attempted homicide. Two men armed with a shotgun and an AK-47 terrorized our citizens, committing multiple robberies around South Florida and Coral Springs. Among the robberies was one at our Advance Auto Parts store. After fleeing the robbery scene, the suspects crashed their getaway vehicle, and one of them opened fire at me with an AK-47, striking me multiple times and leaving me for dead in the middle of the street. The same suspect fled from Coral Springs police officers and took a Coral Springs family hostage in their very own home. If it wasn't for Coral Springs PD and their negotiators who successfully convinced the suspect to surrender peacefully, who knows what may have happened in there. And if it wasn't for some of our finest officers, whom I suspect are some of the finest in the nation, I surely would have died there that night in the streets. Our police department should not be defunded, abolished, or whatever you want to call it. If anything, our police department is the gold standard, what others across the country should be, with its premier level of service and innovative community programs, like the Summer Break Spot program, where Coral Springs police officers take part in a free summer camp for the underprivileged youth of our community. This commission should be working to showcase the great work this department does and encourage other cities to follow the Coral Springs model. I fully support items 3 and 4 on tonight's agenda, and I thank you for your time.
Paul, thank you for your service, and thank Lisa for allowing you to serve.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Deborah, did you say there was one more speaker or two?
Mr. Mayor, we have one more speaker. Stand by.
Thank you.
No. Okay. Mr. Mayor, we have the next caller on the line.
Great. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Commissioners. This is Glenn Matnack, the President of the Fraternal Order of Police here in Coral Springs.
Good evening, Glenn.
So I'm calling tonight to in regards to the other calls that I've heard here. Listening to the calls for defunding the police, reallocating, reimagining, or whatever pseudonym you want to give it, is the biggest farce that this community has ever heard. I've heard the calls for the commission, the police, and the government to be representative of the community. Well, apparently the persons making these requests to defund the police are not representative of our community, and here's why. Year after year, the city conducts a survey of residents and businesses. Consistently, the number one reason that citizens want to live in Coral Springs is because they feel it is a safe place to live. In the most recent survey, both residents and businesses rated the police department as the most important service in the city. Businesses also chose the low crime rate as the number one reason why they decided to have their business in Coral Springs. I have not seen 1 year where residents answered that they wanted to live in Coral Springs because we defunded the police. In contrary, the surveys show that they are willing to pay more taxes in order to feel safe. The comments about defunding the police are completely uninformed persons calling for an action where a problem doesn't exist and where a community does not want the police defunded. Our police department is undersized in comparison with the rest of the county. In fact, if Coral Springs provided the average amount of police officers to citizen ratio as the rest of the county, they would need to hire about 40 more police officers just to be average. Coral Springs Police has done more with less for decades. That should tell you something about the caliber of police officers that they are able to employ. They are able to produce superior results with less staff. Reducing the funding will no doubt result in layoffs and reductions in training and community programs, which ironically are the same areas that people calling for defunding want the police to increase. We have seen the results from cities that have acted on these outrageous suggestions to defund the police. New York has seen a 204% increase in shooting victims. Chicago has seen a 39% increase in homicides. Is this what we want in Coral Springs, to increase our crime? These requests to defund the police are absurd, and I urge the commission to maintain law and order and keep funding the best police department in the country. I'll finish by asking the commission to approve the items on the agenda because they are there to help protect our officers and the community. The comments about rubber bullets prove the point that these comments are uninformed because that's not what's being purchased. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and fellow commissioners.
Thank you very much, Glenn. Thank you for your service as well. So just to be sure, we're still in the area of public comment. Is there anyone else from the public that wishes to be heard?
We do not have any signed speakers. We do not have anyone outside. And I have one form here that I can add into the record in the minutes if you would like.
Sure, Deborah. Thank you.
Thank you. So I would say public comment is closed.
Okay, very good. Public comment is closed. You would say it, and I have. Great, we appreciate hearing from everybody. So first, Frank, I'm gonna let you share anything you'd like or have your team share in response to the concerns and questions and support. Any comments raised in public comment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple things first, I'd like to address the testing for COVID. I'll be speaking on that later, but Nancy had brought up that, and I want to assure her and the rest of the community that the testing will remain in place. And as a matter of fact, we're working on ways to enhance the testing within the city, something very important, and I'll bring more up on that later. I want to thank all the speakers that came up and had the courage to speak tonight on items that are very important to them. Whether folks agree or disagree with what they're saying, they have a right to do so, and that's what makes our country so great, is the ability to do that. What I would like to ask is our police chief to address the JAG grants. There was some things put out there from an understanding standpoint that are not completely accurate with what these funds are going to be used for, and I would like for the police chief to have the opportunity just to address those. Also, if he has the opportunity, I'd like for him to address the crisis intervention team that we do have that does respond to calls for service that involve mental illness. And then also there was some comments about a majority of the calls that the police department runs are for mental health issues. I'm not asking him for the numbers right now, but I will ask him to pull those stats so we can get those to the commission so you have the accurate numbers as it relates to what types of calls we want run and what the breakdowns are. So Chief Perry, if you could please address those items.
Yeah, can you hear me, Frank?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Before I go into that, I'd like to say that, I heard the people that called and supported the police, and we do appreciate that. And I got to be honest with you, my heart's still pounding from listening to Paul talk about his very personal experience where he almost died protecting and serving our community. So, that definitely is something that touches me deeply. I was there that day, and, I appreciate him sharing that very personal story. I also heard the callers that opposed the items, that are on the agenda, specifically item number 3 and 4. I don't blame them. There's a lot of misinformation out there. And misinformation leads to misunderstandings and bad assumptions. For instance, we heard several times that the majority of our calls are mental health or Baker Act calls. That's simply not true. In fact, less than 1% of all our calls are mental health calls. So I don't know where this narrative of the majority of our calls are mental health calls. It's not true, less than 1%. And as we're talking, I know the numbers are being crunched right now, but I feel very confident that it's less than 1%. We've also heard that we're buying rubber bullets to be used against protesters. That again is not true. And again, I understand how we got there. People have assumptions. We're barraged with militarization of the police department 24/7 by the news media. And it's easy to fall into those traps and think like that. But, that it's simply not true. Some of the speakers say I'm trying to militarize our police department. Well, I'm not. I don't see it that way. I look at these items as my attempt to put our officers in the best possible position to save lives in our community. I want to make sure that our officers have the best equipment and the best training possible so that when that moment in time comes, they have the confidence to run into a dangerous situation. It wasn't that long ago when our officers drove as fast as they could, got out of their cars, and ran as fast as they could to the 1200 building at Marjory Stoneman Douglas. They didn't hesitate or wait outside. They ran as fast as they could to get in that building to save lives. This was possible because of the equipment and the training that we provided to them long before this incident occurred. And when conventional wisdom told us this will never happen here, well, it did. And because of our training and our equipment, our officers had the confidence to do the job that they do. And that job saved a lot of lives. With that being said, if you'd like me to right now, I'll talk about items 3 and 4, or if you want to wait until we're in that spot on the agenda, I can wait till then.
Chief, go ahead and give us a quick overview, please.
Okay. Again, justice assistance grants are federal funds that come to us. One of the things that I heard today was that, this is in response to the George Floyd riots. No, it's not. The first item number 3 here, is from 2018. We filled this out back in 2018. We asked for the funding and we were granted $14,039 and change. Now, of that $14,039, 3% of that is going, and it's helping to set up what was the Uniform Crime Report, and a lot of people hear about UCR and the FBI, and it's a database that keeps the statistics on crime in America. Well, that's being phased out with a better program, which is called NIBRS. It stands for National Institute-Based Reporting System. So, 3% of all that grant money will end up going to fund that. The rest of the money will be used for simunition converter kits. You heard me talk about the training that we had before MSD. What these simunition converter kits are. And again, I understand where maybe some, people that don't know the facts made assumptions and, assume we're buying rubber bullets here. But, what they do is allow us to convert the sidearm that you carry right now. If you see a police officer walking down the street right now, that sidearm that he's carried with these converter kits can be converted from shooting an actual bullet to shooting a paintball bullet, for lack of a better descriptor. And what the purpose of that is for our training. We don't use these to shoot at people. We never even take them outside of the range area. What we do is we use them to shoot at each other. We run scenarios. Before MSD, we ran countless active killer, active shooter, school shooting, mall shooting scenarios so that our officers knew how to handle those types of situations. It builds confidence by allowing them to train in the most realistic atmosphere available. So that's what this is. It's a simunition converter kit. It converts our rifles. It converts the handguns that we carry, the actual weapons that we use, so that everything is as close to realistic as it can. The simunitions, when we get shot with them, they hurt. And that adds to the stress of the training and really makes it the best training that you can possibly have. And we're so fortunate that this commission and commissions before it, this city manager and city managers before this one were supportive. We have a simunition house. We have a fantastic range where we have the ability to go ahead and conduct this training. It is fantastic training and it helps us. So, that's item number 3. Does anybody have any questions about that particular item?
I don't know. Okay, Larry, Commissioner Vignola, go right ahead.
I know, Chief, thank you for that. I think you're helping clear up a lot of misunderstanding, like you said. I will tell you that simunitions, here's one that comes out of a AR-15. I kept this one because this one hit me. I did a training scenario with Coral Springs SWAT team a few years ago at one of our local high schools where I saw firsthand I was the bad guy. And we ran scenarios that was scary as can be, knowing that our police officers went through a scenario like this in real life. This is a paintball tip, basically. It hurts, like Chief says, but this came out of a real AR-15. And when you see the police department, your SWAT team come in on you, and they are quiet, they are silent. I had no idea before I knew it. I had green lasers all over me, and I was on the ground. It happens very quickly. This is one out of a 9mm, okay? It hurts, no doubt, but it doesn't hurt like a real bullet, and we're able to go ahead and train our police officers for scenarios where they run these all the time. I advise every member of the commission to reach out to Captain Brad Mock and ask him about this. This is, and how these work in these SWAT scenarios and how much training they actually do. Through the scenario that I ran, we identified some weaknesses at one of our high schools where the SWAT team now knows, okay, they have to be aware of this and things as much as reflections off of glass in a trophy case at a certain high school. I understand where people are concerned about rubber bullets and those types of things and thinking we're making these purchases like this, but this is real training that our police officers partake in, so that way, God forbid, there is some type of scenario, they do know how to react. And I save these because it reminds me every day. It's on my dresser, on top of my dresser, and it reminds me every day of the hard work that men and women of the Coral Springs Police Department do, training just in case, God forbid, something were to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions? Okay, Commissioner Simmons.
Well, I guess it's more of a statement, but I guess just kind of generally speaking, everybody can hear me, right? Just want to make sure. Okay.
Yes.
First I'll say to all the callers, I think I'm not alone in saying that the commission appreciates everyone calling in and engaging in their government, engaging in a meeting like this to kind of let their concerns and voices be known. I think that's important, whether people agree with you or not. I think it's important that when you have people kind of take something that they see in the outside world and want to bring it to their home and then talk about what's important to them. So I'm appreciative of everyone that called today. What I will say is for anyone that thinks that this commission doesn't take any issues, especially societal issues, seriously, you paid enough attention to us because we speak often about issues going on in society. And I think you have one of the most caring commissions in Broward County. And so I just really want people to remember that. Second, I always find it interesting when people feel that an organization or a group is above criticism. And I think that's completely against the hallmark and the foundations of our American society. I think criticism and complaints and suggestions help improve organizations, improve things to be better. And so, where you may see something as a blatant attack, maybe we all need to look a little deeper and see maybe there are some underlying things that can be used or taken as little golden nuggets of suggestions and things of that nature. The third thing I'll say is, a few weeks ago, I, with the support of the commission, formed a police reform and accountability task force to sit down with members of the community and members of the police department to work on things that can help improve our agency so that we can be a model agency in Broward County and in Florida and in the country. And we met 2 times over the course of 2 weeks, and we will continue to meet in the future. I know that we'll be kind of putting out some of the first things that we worked on in a couple of weeks, but for everyone that called, I want you to understand that we are actively working and engaging in dialogue to get things moving. Will it always be perfect? No, it will not. Will I get things that I want? Maybe, and maybe not. Will the police department get everything they want or whatever, however that goes? Maybe not, maybe so. But at the end of the day, for me, as a commissioner, when we're working on issues so sensitive and so important as this, is that we get real results and real solutions and things that stick, and stick for a long time. When I'm no longer on the commission or anyone else is on this commission, is that we actually get things that are beneficial to our community as a whole, and that we do keep people safe, but they also feel protected.
Thank you. Any other comments from the commission? Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to reach out to residents and the public and say that one of the best experiences I ever had as a resident in Coral Springs was I joined the Citizens Police Academy. It's a couple-month course, and you learn what they go through to protect us, and that in itself was amazing. And it just makes you a more informed citizen, more informed resident. As a commissioner, the police allowed us to go through a simulated training. And although I was a good shot on the range, I was a total fail when it came to protecting my fellow police officer or my fellow citizen. And they have to have the real thing to practice with, or as close to the real thing as Commissioner Vignola pointed out. And I just think that's the depth of what's not understood here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Sarah?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank everyone that participated and gave public comment tonight. It's very extraordinary to have 21 people reach out, and many of you speak on the issues. So thank you for doing your public service to keep our city going. I also want to thank the 24 people that reached out by email. Your points are well taken, but please understand public safety is our #1 priority. And in my experience in Coral Springs since 1993, we have one of the best fire, police, and paramedic departments in the state and the country. And it's our, duty as commissioners to keep them at the highest level. I hear about the mental health and wellness. All of the commissioners are passionate about it. We've talked about this in retreats and workshops. We've talked about protecting and serving and supporting our homeless. We've also talked about, the drugs and the addictions and some of the youth that are going through very difficult times, as well as adults. We will continue that conversation. I want to thank and publicly notice Commissioner Simmons for his outstanding service with the task force. I think this is a very important step for us. I'm anxious to hear the findings. I know that we're going to be talking about that in a future workshop or maybe even a commission meeting. But we have some work to do. Very proud of Chief Clyde Perry and how he represents not only our department locally, but at the state and federal level. We have, once again, a great group of people that serve our community. We need to rally behind them and do everything we can to protect all of our residents. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'll call on you in a moment, Commissioner. So just a few comments from me at this juncture. I think our police force is second to none. I have complete faith in our police force. I've been a supporter, believer, resident here in great part because of the safety that my family and I feel here. I moved here in 1997. And one of the reasons that my kids have had a great life here is because of the sacrifice of people like Officer Kempinski. I remember visiting him and his wife after that tragedy. So glad you're here. So glad that you defended us. Chief, you're doing a great job. For all the citizens that came out to speak, I want to echo our city manager's comments. Thank you. Thank you for having the courage to speak up on behalf of what you believe is right. I didn't really hear anybody truly being antagonistic, and what I did hear is, some misunderstandings. I truly get where so many people are coming from across the nation in response to what happened to George Floyd. I have asked our city manager and our chief through the city manager to please dig into the Cahoots program. One of our citizens shared that with me not too long ago. It began in Eugene, Oregon. It appears to be very, very successful. The demands to get information from Cahoots are great. So I look forward to the chief sharing with us shortly what his investigation of Cahoots has done so far. Mental wellness is one of my passions for many reasons. And I think all of our commission is aligned in making sure not that we're just physically safe here, but we feel mentally safe as well. We've got a great team here, and including in our team as you, the community. You're a great part, along with our police chief, along with our city manager, along with leaders like Nancy Mateer and Commissioner Simmons, that we can have these peaceful protests in our city. Have many people. The one that I was able to attend, I didn't see one person without a mask, and have it be peaceful. And it's because of collaboration, it's because of dialogue, it's because of connection, it's because of respect. So whether you said to us to vote yes on number 3 and 4 or no on number 3 and 4, we'll be taking that vote shortly. I also want to commend our speakers, our public speakers, because normally on items that are on the consent agenda, we get 0 speakers. And these items are on the consent agenda, and we got about 20 speakers on this. So I really appreciate that. I do have some questions when we get to these items. I will be pulling those items from the consent agenda for further discussion. But Frank, if you have any further thing that you want to be presented at this time in response to the 21 speakers or so, sounds good to me. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Vignola, you had your hand up.
Just so everyone's aware, looking at the numbers of calls for service for mental health issues since the middle of March to July 12th, 0.56% of all calls to Coral Springs Police were for mental health. I thank the speakers for coming out and having their voices heard, and we want everyone to come out and participate in our government and understand that as a government, not just as a commission, right, but across the board with all our different departments. We want to have dialogue. We want to speak with our residents. We want to hear from you, but we also want you to hear from us as well. If you have questions on these types of items, reach out to any member of the city commission. We are as accessible as could possibly be. Reach out to the city staff. Go ahead and just call City Hall. They'll put you in touch with the right person. Even our police chief, I know I spoke to many residents about these types of issues. But I just want everyone to understand that our number one goal as a government agency is the health and safety of our residents. And in every survey that I can remember being on the commission, I think it's in the top 2 reasons why people move to Coral Springs, why they choose to move to Coral Springs is public safety. Same thing with our businesses, I believe. It's always in the top 2 reasons why. And hearing from Paul Kempinski, I mean, I remember I was home watching the Lakers. I think it was the Western Conference Finals back. It was May of 2009, and I heard gunshots. And I've known Paul. His family's had a business in the city for a very, very long time. And when I heard it was Paul, my heart broke. He was hit by an AK-47. When we talk about rifle plates, that's why I want to give those to our officers. Some of our officers have them already. They weigh about 40 pounds. These new ones will weigh about 6 pounds. Over the course of a day, think about that extra burden of weight that these officers are carrying on them. And then over the course of a career, what that does for them. look, like I said it last time, I'll go to it again. Stoneman Douglas, we saw another agency there. People didn't have the right type of protection, and they sat there and waited outside while all the officers, and a lot of them did not have rifle plates, went ahead, at least with their regular plates, and went in. And looking at the for and against on the numbers on this, there was a lot of people from the public that were in favor of this. I would have no problem if this is something that the commission wants to pursue. I'm looking at different ways to fund the police. I would ask the commission in the future, because I won't be a part of this commission at that point, to maybe make that a part of the survey for our residents and our businesses and funding of police. But I will tell you, in my experience as a Coral Springs resident since I was 5 years old to now raising 3 daughters here, the reason why I wanted to move back to Coral Springs with my family was because of our public safety officials. And it's not because, this commission makes decisions regarding public safety. I think that this is a generational thing. This goes back, Mayor Brook, when you were a mayor last time and a commissioner before that, and then the people that were there 20 years before that, listening to the public safety officials explain why they need these different types of equipment and what it does. Frank, when you were our fire chief, I remember numerous times you came to us with different things, and every single time when you explained it to our commission as to why you would need it, I think we've given it to you. And I think that's kind of in the same way with our police department, and because they don't bring us just frivolous stuff. They're not bringing us things that, in my opinion, are militaristic. I think when they bring things to us, it's to train to better themselves. So God forbid some type of situation takes place in our community or in our surrounding community, we have the best trained officials with the best equipment to go ahead and handle those situations. So look, I'm proud that the decision that we've made to support our police. I continue to support our police. I continue to support a lot of members of our community that maybe aren't in favor of the police agencies abroad because of some of the terrible things that have happened. I think everybody understands that what happened to George Floyd and to multiple people across the country over the years is a horrible thing. But I don't think it's fair to go ahead and generalize things and put people at risk by going ahead and making decisions without really thinking them through and listening. And I just want the public to understand that when you elect us, whether you vote for me or not, right? You elect us to go ahead and gather up the information and make a decision on your behalf, right? And that's kind of what we do. We sit there and we take the extra time and get all the backup and information on things and move forward. And sometimes, Commissioner Shara or Mayor Brook and I might disagree, and that's okay. But understand that this commission does their homework and learns and does the research on these things and makes decisions for the betterment of the entire community. And I think specifically with these items and a lot of other things related to public safety, we go ahead and we look at it, we do what's best. And I think our residents have benefited for that for the last 5.5 decades. So thank you, Mayor.
Great, thank you. I just wanted the chief to reiterate, and I think he only maybe addressed one item. Are either of these items that are before us, are they in response to the protests?
No, Mr. Mayor, they're not. And again, item 3 is strictly a training item that is used just amongst the police officers. It's not even taken out of the range area and used for the public.
Are you able to share with us at this time, Chief, about what you've learned, what you've been able to learn so far about CAHOOTS and what we're in the process of learning?
Yeah, sure. The CAHOOTS program was started out west, like a couple of the callers say, and the information that you received. If you look at it, they have a very robust website. There's a lot of good information on there. There were 12 questions that I did have for them that wasn't really explained on their website. And I had sent an email out to them asking for feedback or responses to those 12 questions. They got back to me right away, but as you can imagine, they've got a lot of requests. So they said to me, look, we're processing these as quickly as we can. We hope to get back to you soon. As of right now, I have not got the responses to those, but I'm going to stay on it and look at it. Again, the basic premise behind it is, having mental health officials out in the field. If you talk to many of my officers, they don't have a problem with that. In fact, I think you're going to see here shortly the kind of a commitment that the city of Coral Springs has towards mental health, not just at the commission level, but also at the staff level. And I know that I'm excited about the direction we're going. But as far as the Cahoots program, look, in theory, it sounds great, right? You say, I'd love to have a mental health official out there. In reality, and I can only go with the last mental health call that I went to. Obviously, now I'm an administrator. I spend a lot more time in the office than I do out in the field. But the last one I went to was a guy who was having a manic problem, and he was naked and running around, and he was combative, and he was fighting, and although we do a tremendous job seeking out and providing our officers with that training, sometimes, you have to go hands-on and get those people calmed down. And what happens is by the time we take them somewhere, they're calmed down, they're relaxed, they're done with their manic episode most of the time, but boy, when you first show up on a scene, and that's something that concerns me, about having somebody show up by themselves. That's one of the questions that I have is, are they, according to their website, only 20% of the time do they need the police to go. So I don't know what kind of response time they have. Do they respond from their home, for instance? We have victim advocates that we call out sometimes to respond to different situations, and they come from their home. So if it's 3 a.m, they got to get woken up, dressed, get in their car, drive out to where they are. Well, if you have a guy who's having a manic episode and he's hurting people in his house or running out in the street and maybe running out in traffic and hurt thing to himself, we can't really wait for any kind of response time that would take, the kind of time it would be responding from your home. So I don't know how they're structured as far as, are they set up like a fire department? Do they have quarters? Do they work 24-hour shifts? That's the kind of information I get. I will tell you that, just a couple other things. I know it's gone along, but so I want to, try and get this done. But, we have a commitment to this, and we are a cutting edge police department. We always have been, and we will continue to seek anything that will make us, better than we were yesterday. And that's our commitment. I will tell you, as far as funding, you hear a lot of people say, oh my God, you have so much money, this, that, the other thing. We have, and I think, Glenn Matnack had said something, comparatively to the other departments around us and per capita, we do more with less. That's been our motto here. We hawk our budget. Trust me when I tell you that, we go over the budget with a fine-tooth comb. We seek out other funding sources, which is what led us to the JAG grant, and you'll see, I think, item number 12, maybe somewhere later in the agenda. We're using forfeiture funds to try and find that funding. A lot of the items that you see us, acquire, they're acquired through other funding sources so that we're not, taxing Coral Springs residents and taking tax dollars from Coral Springs.
That is accurate. These are grant funds that we're talking about for items number 3 and 4. Chief, thank you very much for your time. Frank, anything else at this juncture?
Yeah, Mayor, the chief didn't get a chance. Just Chief, can you real quick say what's being bought with item 4, just so we're on the record? You didn't get a chance to say that.
Yes, sir. So, okay, so item number 4, again, we're using the JAG grants. And what we're looking to do here is replace some handguns, the handguns that you see us carry around every day. Those are items that if we didn't use the JAG funds, we would have to replace them. Guns have a shelf life. It's not like you buy one that lasts forever when you use it every day for work. So we're replacing some of those. With that, of course, we have to buy the holsters for them. And then the other item on there is the less lethal shotgun. Now, again, I appreciate everybody calling in. Like I said, even the people that oppose this, it's good to share the information. The less lethal shotguns, maybe that's where they're getting this idea of rubber bullets, but that does not shoot rubber bullets either. It shoots a beanbag. We've had that program for over 3 years now. We have used it more times than I thought. I think probably you're somewhere in the area of double digits. And basically what it does is it gives us a less lethal option. In the one instance, I'm thinking of somebody that wanted to hurt themselves with a knife, and they had the knife up to their throat and were about to do themselves harm. We were able to shoot them with a beanbag in the belly, which of course knocked them over, made them drop the knife, and we were able to get them Baker acted. So, I look at these things not as militarization, but as buying items that help us help you. This here is another item that, in my opinion, saves lives. Take it away, and we may get into a situation where we're actually shooting real bullets at people.
Are we applying currently, or are we planning to apply for mental health grants?
Mayor, holistically as a city, that is something we're looking into. Our grants team is looking at that, and it is something that will be a focus in the future.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything else for our chief at this time from the commission? Okay, great. Anything else before we move on from you, Frank?
No, thank you, Mayor. I'll speak more later.
Great. So the next item, I almost went right to consent. The next item is Resolution 2020-030, CDBG FY 2020 to 2024.
Thank you, Mayor. This is going to be a public hearing. This is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Coral Springs, Florida, approving the Community Development Block Grant proposed fiscal years 2020 to 2024 consolidated plan and fiscal year 2020 to 2021 annual action plan, authorizing staff to transmit the approved consolidated plan, annual action plan, and supporting resolution to U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and providing for effective date. This requires a public hearing. Mayor.
Thank you. Hi, Nara.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. Just waiting for the presentation.
Great.
There we go. So as already mentioned, my name is Niara Sankar. I'm the Community Development and Housing Coordinator for the City of Coral Springs. This evening, I'm going to present to you the proposed CDBG Consolidated Plan and Annual Action Plan. But before we dive into that, I just wanted to provide a brief overview of the funding sources the city does receive, some of which we receive typically on an annual basis. So the first one is SHIP, which is the State Housing Initiative Partnership. That, of course, is a state grant. Primarily, we use these funds for home rehabilitation. But as a response to COVID-19, we allocated our fiscal year 2019 funds for rental assistance to eligible residents within the city. The second grant that you see listed there is a home grant. That's a federal formula grant through Broward County Consortium. We are a member of the consortium, which allows us to be eligible to receive these funds. Again, these funds are primarily used for the city care program. But we are right now in the process of working towards allocating our fiscal year 2019 funds to purchase assistance. That will assist eligible home buyers with down payment assistance and closing cost assistance. Then we have the CDBG's CV funds, which we did receive this year. This is through the CARES Act. It's a one-time allocation of $467,000. The commission did approve this back in June, the CARES Act funding for micro enterprise assistance. And then we have CDBG, which is what we're about to dive into. And as you can see here, our proposed allocation for the upcoming year is $794,750. The city is also required to submit a consolidated plan and annual action plan, which is what we're about to review, and that is required for us to receive the funding. So as many of you know, CDBG stands for the Community Development Block Grant. This is a federally funded grant through HUD, which is the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Per HUD regulations, each project funded by CDBG must meet one of the three national objectives. So that's to benefit low to moderate income persons, aid in the prevention or elimination of slum or blight, and urgent need. So the city of Coral Springs has been an entitlement city since 2000. And since 2000, we have received just under $16.5 million. So the consolidated plan, this is a 5-year plan. It's a strategic plan for the CDBG funds. So therefore, every 5 years, the city is required to submit this plan to HUD. It determines community needs, and to measure the progress of these plans, we set forth annual goals, program goals, specific objectives, and benchmarks. And then in addition to this consolidated plan, the city is required to submit an annual action plan, which is to report funding determinations that will further the goals that are outlined within that consolidated plan. So of course, you know, these federal funds that we receive, they are invested in the community, improving the community. They primarily benefit very low and moderate income individuals and families in our city. So the goals that are set forth are to provide a suitable living environment, decent housing, and to expand economic opportunities. So in addition to the consolidated plan, we also have the annual action plan. What the annual action plan does is it kind of outlines, it identifies the activities that the city will undertake within that fiscal year, each fiscal year, and those projects that the funds will be expended for. So to determine these projects, we had a cross-functional team, which consisted of community development, public works, and parks and recreation, that selected the proposed projects that we are going to review in the upcoming slides. This here is a map of the CDBG target area. And what it is it's made up of census block groups where the annual median income is 44.87% of the median income. So therefore, they fall into low to moderate income categories. So in other words, CDBG money can be spent in these highlighted areas. This is a list of our proposed projects for the upcoming year. And as you can see there on the bottom, the amount is $794,750, and we will review each project individually with their associated costs. So the first project we have here, this is a parking lot project. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna remove the existing asphalt on existing parking lots and replace it with concrete that is in compliance with ADA and have detectable warnings. As you can see, it's along Sample Road there, and these parking lots are at the entrance of a variety of small businesses along Sample Road. And this is budgeted for just over $102,000. This project, as well as the next two projects, are sidewalk replacement projects. And we're going to remove the existing asphalt, replace it with ADA compliant concrete sidewalks and detectable warnings. This one is located on Northwest 85th Avenue, and it is funded for $70,000. The second sidewalk project is located on Northwest 91st Avenue, and this one is funded for $112,000. And the third sidewalk project is located on Northwest 35th Court, and this is funded for $65,000. So home repair. Home repair has been an extremely successful program within the city. And what we do is we provide home rehabilitation to low to moderate income homeowners who are experiencing conditions in their home that pose a threat to their health, their safety, their welfare. The items that we address are items such as roof repairs, windows, doors, electric, plumbing, mold remediation, so real hazard issues. Then we have the Youth Scholarship Program. This is where we provide scholarships to low to moderate income youth within the city for recreational programs. And these programs range anywhere from science programs to sports, dancing, cheerleading, and this has been a very successful program as well. Here we have one of our two senior programs that are funded through CDBG. This one is the Recreation and Functional Training Program, which is funded for $43,000. And what it does is it provides free classes to seniors that live within the city. And these classes include circuit training and functional training. The classes are held at Sartori Senior Center at Mullins Park and at the Aquatic Complex. This is the second senior program, which is the Recreational and Therapeutic Program, and it's funded for just over $26,000. Again, free classes to seniors within the city. These classes are a little bit different. They include arts, crafts, dancercise, line dancing, tai chi, yoga, you name it. And these classes are held at the Sartori Center at Mullins Park as well. Now, the Neighborhood Partnership Program. This is a program that we fund every 2 years. These funds will be provided for neighborhood outreach programs within the CDBG target area, and we provide a 50% matching grant up to $5,000 per project. And I just want to note that there's also $15,000 that's also proposed in the general fund this year, and that allows for a performance measure of 10 partnerships per year. And planning and administration, this cost is associated with administering the Community Development Block Grant Program and the preparation of the annual action plans. Now, expenditure deadlines. In terms of expenditure deadlines, there's no set date in which certain projects have to be completed. The way it works is that the city is required to maintain a 1.5 ratio prior to July 31st each year. So what that means is that the city should have no more than 1.5 times the annual CDB allocation in the CDBG accounts, city accounts. So for example, this year's allocation, fiscal year 2019-2020, the allocation was $770,191. So if you times that by 1.5, you have $1,155,286.50. Therefore, that is the maximum amount you should have in your CDBG accounts by July 31st of each year. Of course, with that being said, this year is unique. It's been very different. HUD is working with cities when it comes to this July 31st deadline. Inevitably, of course, projects were placed on hold. There were construction delays, manufacturer delays, and then of course our public services, so our youth programs and our senior programs were placed on hold. Staff is working diligently to expend these funds in a timely manner. So staff's recommendation is to hold a public hearing approving the proposed consolidated plan and annual action plan, adopt resolution 2020-30 approving the consolidated plan and annual action plan, and authorize staff to transmit the approved consolidated plan and annual action plan with supporting resolution to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development as required.
Great. Thank you very much, Naira. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to be heard?
Mayor, I do not have any signed speakers or speakers outside.
Okay, very good. Now we will close the public hearing. Any questions of our staff? All right, it's a request to approve and authorize. Is there a motion?
Move to approve, Mayor.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, Naira, thank you very much. Thank you, colleagues. It passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Our next item is our consent agenda. I am pulling items 2, 3, 4, and 5. Are there any other pulls? Okay, seeing no other pulls, is there a motion for the balance?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Vignola, seconded by Commissioner Sarah. Any discussion on the balance? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, carries unanimously. Number 2 is regarding 2019 Urban Area Security Agreement, Alexander Falcone. If we could hear a brief presentation on that, Frank.
No problem, Mayor. I'll have Alex go over this real quick. UASI is something we've been participating in for some time now for training, equipment, and facilities. Alex, you want to give us a brief overview of UASI and what is included in this project?
Thank you.
Absolutely, Frank, and thank you, Mr. Mayor and the Commission. This is the annual agreement for our 2019 UASI funding. This is a counterterrorism federal grant that's awarded to the city to expand our capabilities to respond to not just acts of terrorism, but also acts of mass violence. The 2 projects that are on the list today for funding this fiscal year were originally worked on and put before the UASI Regional Board in 2018. The 2 projects that we're looking to fund first is enhancements to our city's real-time crime center. We're looking to purchase hardware, different servers that we can install to enhance our capabilities. We're looking to purchase software analytic licenses for our cameras. And we're also looking to purchase technologies so that we can build a live video wall, which essentially allows us to put multiple different streams up on TVs. cable, computers, or other inputs. The second item on this UASI agenda is the purchase of CBRN protective equipment for our Light Force team. CBRN stands for chemical, biological, radiological, and explosive gas masks. These essentially provide our Light Force team with protective equipment so they can respond to a wide variety of hazards. Once again, this project was formulated back in 2018. It was identified as a need because our current equipment is being phased out. I'm happy to answer any questions that the commission has.
Great. Seeing none, I actually just wanted to highlight that item, so I appreciate you doing that for us, Alex. May I entertain a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Commissioner Simmons?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say that I asked my questions during my agenda briefing regarding this initiative. And one of the things I was concerned about was just kind of how the real-time crime center would be used. And as I understood it, that it's a private, public partnership. And so, businesses and things of that nature have to opt into this. And so the city is not just the city nor the police department. It's just sitting on the computer, surveilling residents or anything of that nature. So this isn't necessarily a case of Big Brother's watching. And this is more preventative than anything of that nature. Yes, we are in, we've kind of been in a socially distant mode now since March. But before all of this, we had not handled for me personally, we have not handled our issues with mass violence adequately. And so this is something that will protect residents and things of that nature. So if there's anyone that feels that this is, us kind of upping government watch or anything of that nature, this is not the purpose of that. So.
Great, thank you. Any further comments? All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, carries unanimously. So next is item number 3. Chief, do you have anything to add to what you've already shared?
No, I don't have anything to add, but if anybody has any questions about either 3 or 4, I'll be happy to answer.
So I do have a question. One of the speakers, Shannon Matthew, she talked about 2 statements. One is restorative justice. Another is transformative justice. What is our understanding of those statements?
Well, restorative justice is just that, restoring, making people whole. Instead of throwing somebody in jail, maybe if somebody shoplifted, you sat down with the person that shoplifted, you sit down with the shop owner, and you sit down and you try and work it out and come to where, each side's made whole and each side feels comfortable with what's being done. In regards to that, I'd like to say that Coral Springs had one of the first diversion programs ever in the county. We had a juvenile diversion program, 25 years ago, and before anybody else had diversion programs. And the goal of that was to not give somebody a criminal record if they simply made a mistake. They would often be used for community events or some sort of, whether it be picking up trash or working out at the range, doing things like that to kind of, pay their sentence. But if they successfully completed it, we had counseling sessions with them, sometimes the schools, sometimes the parents, talked about it and got together and then, that would disappear them from their record and it would stay, just a local event.
Great. Chief, while we have you, can you share a little bit about the training and education that we require for our police officers?
Well, I will tell you that first it starts out with our academy. And, when I moved down here in '87, Florida was a little behind the amount of hours that were required in other states, but that's no longer the case. Obviously our academy is 6 months long. After that, they get out, we do an FTO program, which could take another 3-4 months, depends on how how fast the person is gaining the knowledge that they need. You know, we do training that's mandated every year. You know, for the last X amount of years, we've had bias-based training, racial training. You know, there's a lot of mandatory training, and then, you know, in Coral Springs we go above and beyond that. You know, we add in, you know, like I said, you know, we've always had, you know, the support of our commission, of our community, and that really is, we couldn't do what we do if we didn't have that support. I mean, no matter how good we were, without the support, we couldn't do what we do. So, you know, we've been fortunate enough to have a fine training facility. You know, people want to use our facility all the time, you know, because it's such a good facility. And I know, you know, many of you have been out there. But, you know, we do training on top of that. And then there are all kinds of classes. You know, one of the things that, you know, we talk about federally funded dollars, we use that. We used to have a line in our budget for training, and we removed that line so that the taxpayers didn't pay that burden. And for, you know, sworn officers, we use that forfeiture dollars to fund the training that we do on top of all the other stuff. So, you know, there's a tremendous amount of training that goes on.
I appreciate that, Chief. So I have at least one more question. Can you share with everybody about our crisis intervention teams?
Yeah, you know, again, one of the things that I think that, you know, and we do well, and when I say that, I also credit some of the other departments in Broward County, you know, Plantation, Pembroke Pines. You know, we have been doing that for, God, probably 20 years. And, you know, the crisis intervention teams are there. Anytime we have a crisis, you know, they do debriefings, defusings, you know, they have one-on-one sessions. You know, the confidentiality is one of the things. As you know, we just, or as you may or may not know, we just had our CALEA assessors come down and, you know, go through our practices. And one of the areas where they raved about in their exit interview, and, you know, was that they were amazed at the confidentiality of our, you know, of our teams. And they were just amazed at the buy-in that they get. And again, that starts at the top and goes all the way down. So, you know, hats off to, like I said, everybody in the city. I alluded to it earlier, talking about, you know, us being on the cutting edge of mental wellness. And I will tell you that we are on the cutting edge, and you know, the direction we're going in is going to be a model, I think, for most cities in the United States.
Thank you. I have one last question, Chief. I don't know whether someone insinuated this or made a direct statement, but could these funds be used instead for mental health?
Well, the funds can be used for training and purchasing equipment. I would have to look back and remember, there's all kinds of grants out there. And you know, as I think City Manager Babinak, you know, talked about, our grant writers are looking for as many funds as we can. So, you know, typically, you know, if you were to use them, the one thing about these grants here, and the reason why we chose to use them for the type of equipment we do, is that it fits. That's about the amount of money we need, and it's about the money we get. Now, if we were going to do something that cost $100,000 and we only got $14,000, well, then we got to come up with the money elsewhere, you know, to make it work. So this was just a natural fit for that type of spending.
Great. Well, thank you very much for indulging me, Chief. You're doing a great job.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. So can I entertain a motion to approve item number 3?
Moved.
A second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Commissioner Simmons.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to speak kind of both on 3 and 4. So, you know, bear with me. And also, I have the little one in my arms. So if you see me looking down and doing stuff like this, that means I'm getting her to.
We see her hand popping up.
Okay. All right, cool. So So I'm going to say this first. I've been in the streets. I protested. I've been a part of conversations. I do think that in this day and age, in all things, when it comes to the world and how things move, organizations and things of that nature should change with the times. And how you used to do something 30, 40 years ago may need to be updated and changed, for the current trends of that day and age. And I don't think anything is different with policing. Do I have my own personal beliefs and issues when it comes to policing? Of course. Do I think police are necessary? Yes, of course. If I am a victim of a crime or anything of that nature, I'm calling 911. And because that's what I believe, that's who I believe is supposed to be there to protect and serve. Now, is Coral Springs like a lot of other police agencies around the country? No, they are not. Has the Coral Springs Police Department have their issues? Yes, they have. And when there were issues of excessive force within our own department that went viral a few years ago, I did the most unpopular thing you could do as a candidate running in a city that prides their police department like Coral Springs, and that was to speak out against it. And my statement was screenshotted and shared in different groups and of that nature, and I was derided and all those things like that. But I thought it was important that my thoughts were known, because when something's wrong, regardless of who perpetrates it, I'm going to say something. I don't believe in blind loyalty or blind fealty. I just want everybody to do what's right and do right by people. And so for a lot of the callers that called in, you may not know me and anything of that nature. I try to make myself as accessible as possible. And I would love for you to reach out to me. But if you know me, then you understand that I move in the best direction of the city, but also by what's right. And as I ask my questions about items 3 and 4, I ask very pointed questions, and you can ask my colleagues, you can ask the city manager, you can ask the chief of police. I ask very blunt and honest questions when it comes to things that we're voting on. And it's not just for police issues. We have a lot of other issues we have to deal with, and I also ask pointed questions there as well. But as it was explained to me for both of these grants, number one, these funds cannot be used for anything else. So those aren't, they cannot be reallocated or moved to any other function other than what the grants are tied to, especially when it comes to federal dollars. They have very strict guidelines how those funds should be used. Number two, these funds were being applied for almost 3 years ago as well. So they weren't applied for in response to these current protests. And I guarantee you all, if that was the case, we would be having longer dialogues about this, because I would not approve of that. I would not approve of us doing anything in a knee-jerk reaction or fashion, because that would be wasting taxpayer dollars. I don't know what number I'm on, but I'm gonna just guess number 4. These aren't tax dollars. So, it's nothing's coming out of anyone or anything of that nature. I think you all understand that during this COVID-19 process, we've been very candid about the shortfall that we're facing as a city. And I would not be voting for anything that would waste any further resources taken away from what we need to do here as a city. What I had to realize when I ran for office in this city is what is important to this community. And there are a lot of people that move into this city based on public safety and feeling safe in their homes. And we do have one of the lowest crime rates within Broward County and within the state. But I also know that no place is perfect. No department is perfect. I've had honest and open conversations about what we need to do. Are there things that I would want for us to do differently? Of course. Would I love for us to have a more robust crisis intervention team to respond to nonviolent calls? Of course, but things like that take time. And we can't do anything with the snap of our finger, not like that. And if we could, we probably would do something of that nature, but we have to take some time in looking at what works best for Coral Springs. And so with these 2 grants that are being offered, they're here for normal functioning of our police officers. I tell you this all the time, and I say this in any meeting that I'm in, especially when it comes to police issues. I want the citizens to go home. I want Black and brown folks to be able to go home. I don't want Black and brown folks to be in fear of interaction with police officers, especially within our city. But I also want police officers to go home as well. They have families, they have lives. And I have friends that are police officers, and I have friends that are in the movement. And I want everybody to be able to go home through these interactions. And at that time, right now, we are responding to national issues. but we have to make sure we do what's best for Coral Springs. And so some of you may not like that for items 3, I'm gonna vote yes for it because of how it was explained to me. And that's me trusting that the city manager and the chief of police told me that what these funds are being used for or what they're being used for. And I'll end on that note. If any of you have any problems with that, I will be more than happy to talk to you. If you want to talk about it, if you want to yell at me, give me a call, send me an email, all of that, things of that nature. If you want to blast me on Twitter, do so, that's okay. Because at the end of the day, I know what I'm doing is the right thing, but I also know that when I say I'm keeping an eye on what we're doing here as a city, trust and believe me that that's what I'm doing.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons. So I have no doubt that our police force that does so much with relatively less, as was spoken about by 2 of the public speakers. And I'm happy to be voting yes for item number 3. Any further comment? Commissioner Vignola.
I just want to reiterate that these simulations are not rubber bullets. They are training. Basically, they're paint tip bullets that allow police officers, like the chief said, to both deal in a real situation and inflict a little bit of pain on the person that they're looking for, which in one case was me, but also be careful enough and learn to be careful enough where if you know, the suspect in those cases, which I was and shot back if they made a mistake, they would also feel it for real and understand the gravity of the situation, training throughout and treating it as if it's real. And then, so they are simunitions. They are not rubber bullets or pellets or anything like that. They're not a crowd control device. They are strictly for training, like our police chief said.
Great, thank you very much. Any further comments? Go ahead, Commissioner Simmons.
Sorry, last thing, as I understand, this isn't militarization of the police. You know, if we were voting on a tank or if we were voting on, you know, other types of different, you know, offensive weaponry and things of that nature, then you would hear a completely different Commissioner Simmons. From the information that I was given, how these grants are written and what these funds are being used for, this is not further militarization. And I would not ever agree to us using, you know, different types of weapons during protests in our cities when I know that they're going to be peaceful and anything of that nature. So I just really want people to understand that these aren't decisions we're making to be political or anything of that nature. These are just, we're just doing what we think is in the best interest of Coral Springs.
Great, thank you very much. Anything further from the commission? All right, everyone in favor of item number 3, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, carries unanimously. Item number 4, we've heard about item number 4 previously. Did anybody have any questions, or are you ready to make a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Commissioner Vignola. Any discussion on item number 4? So as with item number 3, I also have no doubt that not only will this make our police safer, it'll make our citizens safer.
Right.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, carries unanimously. The only reason I pulled item number 5, somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but somewhat not, it's regarding a bundle amendment to AT&T Corp. And despite my personal differences with AT&T and my move to another carrier, I'll be voting yes on this item. And there I go with the lights again. But Luam told me during this meeting she's going to get them fixed. So is there a motion to approve item number 5?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, carries unanimously.
I think they thought that you were criticizing FP&L, Mayor. I think that's.
No, not FP&L. FP&L is my friend.
That's why the lights went
FP&L
off.
is my friend. Definitely need FP&L. All right, next is ratification matter, item number 10 of emergency order 2020-18.
Thank you, Mayor. We've only had one emergency order of recent, and this is simply extending our emergency order that continues all non-health safety urgent issues in front of the special magistrate as we can continue to work on stopping the COVID pandemic. So we're only having those meetings when it is something that is of urgent health, safety, welfare of the citizens. Everything else is continued.
Great. You need a unanimous approval?
A motion and a second. And
You got it. Motion by?
Move to approve.
Move to approve.
All right, motion by Vice Mayor Carter, second by Commissioner Sarah. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, carries unanimously. Next is item number 11, policy formation and direction and agreement with merchant credit card services. Stephen Dyer.
Mayor, this is an item that we're bringing forward, and we're requesting to waive the competitive procurement process for this item. We recently did a upgrade to our RecTrack program, and we needed a merchant credit card service processor that was compatible with this new program. Stephen will just give us a quick overview of that, and then we can answer any questions if you have any.
Sure.
Yeah, so we upgraded the software, as Frank had mentioned. One of the features that it enables is mobile payments in the field, to where our parks personnel could actually have portable readers with them. And in the past, had they seen somebody like at a pavilion that hadn't properly rented the pavilion, they would be asked to leave. Now with this, the parks personnel can take if they have the iPad with them, they can, just charge them right there on the spot if they want, or, they could ask them to leave, or if they wanted to stay, they could properly check it out right there. So Card Connect, the company, the reason we're asking to waive it is they're the only company that supports this mobile feature.
Any questions of Stephen? Is there a motion to request to waive and approve?
Move to approve.
Commissioner Sarah, you want a second?
Second.
All right, very good. Discussion. So I had asked about this in my briefing. I was a little bit concerned about going out full 3 years. What if somebody is able to compete in 2 years? And if you don't mind sharing the answer to that question, Stephen or Frank, I'd appreciate it.
Mayor, one of the things that we'll do is we'll continue to watch the market. There are different level of service providers. Currently, this is the only provider that can provide this service to this specific program. Our purchasing agent, Lewis, or purchasing manager, Lewis, went out and did his research, and we could not find any other company that was even in the process of being able to provide this service. So we're very confident in the short term that this is the only vendor. And when that 3 years comes up, we will be looking beyond this to see if there's anybody else out there to do a competitive bid process.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor of requesting to waive and approving this merchant service provider, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, carries unanimously. Next is item number 12.
Mayor, you got the commission heard this last commission meeting to approve the funds for this through forfeiture funds. Chief Perry will give us a quick overview of this. I do want to point out on item B, 12B, that we are asking to request to waive competitive process due to a warranty that this particular vendor has that is double the warranty of anybody else in the industry. So Chief Perry.
Yeah, I know we've talked about this before, so briefly, what we're looking to do is get permission to use GL distributors to purchase the ballistic plates. These are in conjunction with the bulletproof vest that we wear right now. They won't be an outer plate. They would go into the vest carrier itself. This particular brand is a lot lighter in weight, has a 10-year warranty when the rest of the standard in the industry is a 5-year warranty. So that will save us from having to replace it 5 years from now. 10 years obviously is double the time and much better. So we're looking to purchase this plate for our officers. I know that you guys have approved the spending up to $220,000 of federal law enforcement trust fund dollars. Again, we look for alternative funding for this, so we're going to use the forfeiture dollars here. I don't anticipate us spending that full amount. In fact, I anticipate us spending somewhere around under 160,000. So the rest of that money will be returned back into the federal trust fund dollars.
Right, any questions? Right, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Moved by Commissioner Vignola, seconded by Commissioner Sarah. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, carries unanimously. Next is item number 13.
Mayor, this is an interlocal agreement for 911 dispatch services for the city of Coconut Creek.
You just cut off, Frank.
My battery was going dead, so I got to change headsets. Can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
So this is an agreement that we've been working on for years, for several years now, for dispatch services for the city of Coconut Creek. This will be for both police and fire dispatch services. This agreement will account for all cost recovery associated with providing these services to the city of Coconut Creek. This will be a long-term agreement that will have protections and provisions in place for both the city of Coral Springs and the city of Coconut Creek. I'll ask Deputy City Manager Curnow to give us some of the particulars, along with Kathy Lariano, who is our dispatch communication service manager.
Thank you.
Yes, good evening, everyone. So as Frank mentioned, this is an interlocal agreement that we've been working on with the project team to provide dispatch functionality for the city of Coconut Creek for their police and fire services. We are putting together the plan. We put together the cost sheet, which I spoke to you, most of you a little bit earlier today in regards to the costing structure. And all of the costs and fees that you see there are passed through to be paid by the city of Coconut Creek. So from the technical perspective, if you have any questions on that, Kathy is here from the Communications Center, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. Mayor, the other thing I'd like to bring up is the commission has heard this item extensively. We've talked about it in several workshops, and we did a full presentation for the commission 2 workshops ago where we had the ability to interact with the commission to get input on this. So if you have any further questions, we're happy to answer.
I do. So is there any initial investment by us that is at risk?
No, so we have the way that our budget and strategy department worked with Kathy's group to set up the contract and the cost structure is that there's startup cost. So those startup costs are paid by Coconut Creek. For some reason, if we were in the beginning stages of implementing this, and Coconut Creek said, something, we're not going to do it. Any money they pay towards any infrastructure that's being put in place to achieve this would be an investment they would not get back. It would stay in place. So the city of Coral Springs is not fronting any money to put any of the infrastructure in place that is needed for this venture. The city of Coconut Creek is required to pay us upfront startup cost.
All right, thank you. Any questions? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a request to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Vice Mayor Carter and seconded by Commissioner Sarah. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of item number 13, please say aye.
Larry,
Commenting?
I missed you. I'm sorry, Commissioner. Go ahead, Commissioner Vignola.
I just want to go back to our conversation at the workshop when we discussed this, and I understand where the votes are going to be in this, but I just want people to understand why I'm not voting in favor of this. Years ago when majority of the county, all but us in Plantation, went over to the county system, it was a way to save money, and it was an economic decision, and everyone thought that bigger was going to be better. The city of Coral Springs, our police and fire chiefs at the time, felt like keeping control of our own system and focusing just on the city of Coral Springs was the best way to, keep localized control when it comes to public safety. As the county system went on and Coconut Creek joined that county system, our residents paid about $2 million more a year to stay with our system. And I think it was the right decision. And I think the rest of the county now thinks it's the right decision. But I don't think that it's our responsibility as a city of Coral Springs to become a regionalized service provider. I'm against that. I think we should focus on our city, our residents, and our areas and focus in on that. My biggest fear with this item, and it's nothing against another city or any other community when it comes to providing services, my concern comes in, at what point can we drop the ball? We had an incident many years ago here in the city with our own dispatch center where a gentleman fell into a canal, and the person that called 911 described that specific canal as to where they were. They didn't know what street they were on. And our public safety personnel were able to get there and save the person. I think this was during Hurricane Matthew, and the gentleman was halfway in the canal culvert. There have been many instances like that throughout the city. And as time goes on, and if we grow our dispatch center, I just want everyone to understand that we are going to be cross-trained in other communities, and whoever we hire to service that community will be cross-trained into ours. And I think it's a lot easier to go ahead and focus on a smaller area, especially when it comes to a service like dispatch. I know we all, every one of us, and we might disagree on this issue, and I don't want to say that you guys don't care about public safety. I think all of us, that's our top priority. But in my opinion, going forward and joining another city for dispatch, I'm concerned that we start getting too big. And at what point do we draw the line? And you guys heard it at the workshop. Staff cannot guarantee that we're not going to drop the ball on something because we have some, because we're going ahead and growing, that there's not going to be a slip up where someone doesn't know where it is. And going back to Stoneman Douglas and hearing those 911 calls when someone says, I'm here. Where are you? Stoneman Douglas High School, where's that? Obviously, this isn't that scenario, but there was calls in Palm Beach County related to that killer where someone said, I'm in this park with this person, and the police never showed up because they didn't know exactly where it was. I hate the scenario where someone who's hired for the other city and is cross-trained over and they're trying to learn everything, and you don't know where, certain parks are in the community and things like that. Eagle Ridge Park is something that I know, it's right by my house. It's not anywhere near Eagle Ridge Elementary School, right? But there are confusing things like that throughout the community that I'd hate to see something like that happen. So I just want to go ahead and say that for the record so everyone understands where I'm coming from and why I'm going to vote no, although I do appreciate you guys and where you're coming from on this.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead. Thank you, Commissioner Vignola. Go ahead, Vice Mayor Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I respect Commissioner Vignola's thoughts when the changes were taking place within the county, and we did opt out, which turned out to be an incredibly wise choice. I think that there is manipulation in government, and I believe that ultimately we could be forced into a system that we do not want to participate into. So to form our own little regional corridor or corner, I think is proactive. And that's why I am supportive of this initiative. And as far as training, that's where we're good. We are really good at training. And I granted, you can't say 100%, but I just think that the effort will be there to make it 100%. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, there's a saying that imitation is the best form of flattery. Go ahead, Commissioner Vignola.
I know that's the fear of the state pushing something down on us when it comes to a regionalized dispatch system. And Sheriff Gutierrez with the MSD Commission was pushing that. I think right up until our police chief and fire chief had those conversations and explained everything related to Stoneman Douglas. And when he ran for office, he pushed the E911 countywide system. He had a bias moving into that. However, unfortunately, after the Stoneman Douglas tragedy now, and as things have gone forward, we do have a lot of connections in Tallahassee. And if any type of push like that were to happen, I'm pretty sure that we're not going to be pushed into a regionalized system, and people understand that in this area, our system is the standard that everyone's trying to aim and reach for. I'm just afraid by growing it that we might slip up a bit, and that's something that, for me personally, I don't want to see happen. And That's my fear. But thank you.
You're welcome. I hear you, Commissioner Vignola. Frank, could you share a little bit about how the expansion of our fire service into Parkland has impacted Coral Springs? And then share a little bit about why we've been investing so much time and you're asking us to approve this particular item.
So Mayor, I'll cover the fire service part first. In 2004, the city of Parkland was going away from a public safety model where their police officers were firefighters and their firefighters were police officers, and then they supplemented by volunteer firefighters. They came to the city of Coral Springs. We had been providing medical services to them since 1996, and they wanted to expand those services to include both fire and community risk reduction services. At that time, we took on those contractual services for the city of Parkland. Although from a contract standpoint, it wasn't the smoothest thing in the world. We had the first couple contracts were a little bumpy when it came to terms, conditions, and language. But on an operational side, it was a benefit to the city of Coral Springs. And I've always said, and I'm not going to be a hypocrite and go backwards on this. I've always said as the fire chief, when I was the fire chief, that the city of Parkland joining the Coral Springs Fire Department enhanced the Coral Springs Fire Department, and the city of Parkland's fire department was enhanced by the city of Coral Springs Fire Department. So today we operate as the Coral Springs Parkland Fire Department. We operate without boundaries. Our trucks, there are no our trucks anymore. There might be stations in geographical locations of the city of Coral Springs or city of Parkland, but those trucks know no boundaries. They go across the boundaries to service the citizens in need. So it's been a very positive experience, other than the first several contracts where our last contract, we finally got it right. We're in the process of negotiating our next version of the contract. Believe it or not, it's been 5 years. And the commission will be hearing that contract probably in September, maybe even August. And there are very few changes outside of some grammatical changes and some updates as far as statutes and stuff like that go. But that contract is now a solid contract, and we have a great relationship when it comes to fire service with the city of Parkland. The city of Coral Springs now enjoys an ISO 1 class rating, and the city of Parkland enjoys a ISO 2 class rating. When the two departments came together, the city of Parkland was a 7, and I think we were a 5 at the time. Wow. Why I say that is we have made strides together, and we have I truly believe we have a stronger fire department today for it. As far as the advantages go to doing the dispatch service, I know Kathy's chomping at the bit here because she's done a ton of work on this. So I'd like to turn it over to Kathy to talk about that, because I can just hear her chewing through the phone right now saying, let me talk, let me talk.
All right, thank you.
Kathy, if you could help us out with this one, please.
No problem. And you did an excellent job explaining on the fire side, and for us, for the dispatch side, is very similar. Is the work around the work together with the city of Coconut Creek. Prior to regionalization, we worked very closely with the Coconut Creek when they had their own dispatch center, and by us providing dispatch services to them, I really feel it's going to not only enhance our operational ability to provide the best services to the citizens of, Coral Springs and Parkland for the fire rescue portion of it, but it'll also enhance the services that Coconut Creek is currently receiving. One of the things that I do take pride on, and Vice Mayor did point out on it, is our training. We focus so much on our training and making sure our people understand not only the geography of our city and any city that we also dispatch for, but also operationally the functionalities behind it, and the services that we provide not only to the callers that call us, but also to the public safety personnel. So advantage-wise, it's only going to make us a stronger PSAP or a dispatch center overall in our area of Broward County. It's going to solidify a little bit better the northwest section of the county. And we work so closely with Coconut Creek as well that it'll help in interoperability purposes for both police and fire services.
Great. Well, I appreciate you both indulging my question. Any further comments from our commission? Okay, seeing none, I believe I got a motion and a second. Am I correct? Just in case I didn't, let's go for it again. Is there a motion to approve this ILA?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. I think you guys were the same moving and seconder the first time. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay.
Nay.
All right, it approves, goes forward 4-1. Thank you for the discussion and the presentation. Next is an amendment to One Solution Software, item number 14.
Mayor, this is tied to the item number 13 that was just approved. We have to interface some software to provide these services to the city of Coconut Creek. The $83,975 that this is going to cost will be a pass-through and paid by Coconut Creek. Stephen, you want to highlight anything else on this?
You summarized it perfectly.
Great. Thank you. It's a request to approve. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Next is item number 15.
Mayor, we have a very robust maintenance and replacement program when it comes to our water services. This next item is to replace some water services over between the Woodside and Rock Island area. And Najla will tell us a little bit about this real quick and give us a highlight of what this work will include.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. So this item is a request to replace water service line projects. Toward the water service line replacement project to Mark Dan for the amount of $622,140. The project was, the city solicited this bid on April 15, and it consists of replacing the existing water service lines in Section 14. Section 14 is part of the crossing subdivision, is within the crossing subdivisions. City received 7 bids, which were reviewed by purchasing and public works engineering. After further review and checking the references, we deemed that Mark Dan met the contract responsiveness and responsibility criteria. And that's why we would request to award the contract to Mark Dan.
Thank you. Any questions for Najla? Anything else you want to add, Frank?
Mayor, just on the record, Mark Dan was the second lowest bidder. Lewis can give us a quick overview as to why we did not use the first lowest bidder. I would like for that to be on the record, please.
Thank you.
Good evening. Absolutely. The very price-wise, the lowest bidder was GT General Contractors. We attempted to contact references that they provided, doing our responsibility review as we do for all of our bids and for all of our solicitations. We had difficult time contacting them. We reached out to GT General Contractors over several weeks, multiple times. They gave us backup numbers and also additional references over the initial that they first gave us. We again attempted to contact them. We were not able to confirm. We asked for references that are similar in scope and in value to what the solicitation that we put out is, and we were not able to confirm that. So then we moved on to Mark Dan. We reviewed their references and their references came through. So that's why our recommendation is to Mark Dan Inc.
Okay, any questions? Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, carries unanimously. Next is item number 16.
Mayor, Najla is our city engineer. She does an amazing job. However, there are jobs that are beyond the staff's ability to look at, and then sometimes they just need a second set of eyes. So we always go out for engineering services to supplement our engineering department. We're looking to renew a current contract with Eichler Engineering for a 5-year period, and Najla is available for any questions you may have.
Any questions for staff? All right, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor of item number 16, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carries unanimously. Next is item number 17. And there go my lights again. It's been kind of entertaining, actually.
Yes. Mayor, item number 17 is a line of credit that we're looking for not to exceed $25 million. One of the things that we have in place is a line of credit to help us, God forbid we get hit by a hurricane and we have some extraordinary expenses. So this is an insurance policy that we have in place and we're looking to put in place. It'll cover us for the next 3 hurricane seasons. I'd like for Kim just to give us a quick overview from a financial standpoint of how this will affect us.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. So as Frank mentioned, that hurricane season poses unforeseen expenses reaching into millions of dollars that aren't by FEMA in a timely manner. So unfortunately, other emergency events may also occur that can cause a financial impact to the city's cash flow. So the city's determined to be proactive should a need arise and have a $25 million line of credit in place during these next 30 months, covering those 3 hurricane seasons. We had one similar issued back in July of 18 for a $10 million line of credit for 18 months. The cost for this is the approximately $90,000 in issuance costs, but it also comes with an unutilized fee of 0.12%, which is approximately, or it is $30,000 annually if nothing is drawn down, and that would be for the term of the line of credit. I also have bond counsel, Albert Del Castillo, and our financial advisor, Nick Rocca, on the line if you have any questions.
And Mayor, you're going to be asked to approve the resolution, so I'd like to read it into the record.
Go right ahead.
Thanks. Resolution 2020-031 is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Coral Springs, Florida, authorizing a loan in the aggregate principal amount of not exceeding $25 million in the form of a non-revolving line of credit for the purpose of providing liquidity financing for the project described herein, accepting the proposal of TD Bank NA to provide such loan to the city, making findings and determinations to said loan, authorizing the issuance of a non-revolving credit note to evidence and secure the loan, covenanting to budget and appropriate from legally available non-ad valorem revenues provided herein as a source of security and payment of the non-revolving credit note, authorizing the execution and delivery of such non-revolving credit note, approving the form of a line of credit agreement, and authorizing the execution and delivery of such line of credit agreement, authorizing other required actions in connection therewith, prevent severability of invalid provisions, and providing for an effective date. Thank you, Mayor.
Great. So I do have a question, whether it's of you, Kim, or Albert, and nice to have you on the line again, Albert. How common is this? For us.
Kim, do you want me to address that?
Sure, Albert, go right
Sure,
ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, good evening, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Pleasure to be here with you. So we're seeing this more and more as communities are perhaps somewhat challenged revenue-wise, or even if not that, just because the timing on the FEMA reimbursements that municipalities are entitled to receive after a disaster, it takes so long to receive those reimbursements. We are seeing more municipalities enter into this type of arrangement. And the best way to look at it, I think, if I may, is almost as an insurance policy. Hopefully you don't even have to draw on the line, but if you need it, it's there for your use. And as your finance director said, this one goes beyond what was done in 2018, and it gives you the ability to draw for 30 months, which is in effect over the course of 3 hurricane seasons.
Thank you very much, Albert. I appreciate it. Any further questions? All right. All in favor of item number 17, the resolution, it's a request to approve and adopt.
Move to approve.
I moved by Vice Mayor Carter. I saw Commissioner Vignola's lips move as a second. Any discussion? Go right ahead, Commissioner.
Just want to thank staff for this. This is actually better than an insurance policy because this is cash up front. This isn't waiting for insurance company to go ahead and cut a check, and it allows us the ability to go ahead and deal with disaster cleanup and stuff and be at the forefront of things where I know one of our residents complained about the way we handled that, but that wasn't us. That was actually the fact that there were tropical storms, I think, hit everywhere from North Carolina coast down around Florida all the way to the southern tip of Texas on the eastern side of Texas that year. It was hard to get people, but the ability to go ahead and have cash on hand, I think, is huge in those types of situations. And Kim, I want to thank you and your staff for working hard to get this done for us. And hopefully we won't have to see any benefits from it, but God forbid, it's nice to know that we're prepared.
This is a reminder to me, not just you, Kim, but so many people that are on this Zoom call. You're all such proactive. You're also proactive in your roles. Makes our job on the City Commission so much easier. So I just want to say thank you to everybody here, Kathy, Stephen, Lewis, for just always thinking about our community and thinking about ways to improve, ahead of emergencies and ahead of, potentially unforeseen items. So thank you very much. Any further discussion? All in favor of the resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Before we go to Commission Communications, because it's 9:15 already, and we're in July 15th, and we have budget public hearings in September. If you can bring on Catherine, maybe for 2 or 3 minutes before we go to Commissioner Communications. I want to have as many people that are listening, watching, learn a little bit more about our budget process and where we stand and what's coming up with trim notice.
Sure. Catherine, can you give us a little overview of the budget process and where we are in that process and what's to come?
I'm sorry, Frank, to interrupt, but Albert, could you please mute yourself on your side because you're a little noisy.
Can we do that now?
Yeah, Albert still needs to mute himself, but you can go ahead, Catherine.
Great. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. And we have been working through the budget process with departments, and it really is an annual, it's a year-long effort. And we start hearing pieces that go into the budget process by the residential and/or business surveys. And we start with that in the month of January. And we continue to have conversations. We've had workshops. Our latest workshop was last month in June 24th. And we have another meeting coming up where the commission will set trim and the special assessments next Wednesday. So next Wednesday is a time for people to listen in on the budget presentation that we will be delivering. And at that point, that's when residents will start to receive their trim notices. That's your property tax. That's letting you know how much you're going to pay. That's generally sent out by BCP, Broward County Property Appraiser's Office the second week of August. That's where you can see that the city of Coral Springs, the piece of their of the tax bill is only 30% going to the city of Coral Springs, and you'll see the other taxing agencies such as the school board and Broward County. You'll see that on there, and then we come back for September to have budget hearings for 2 different readings. One is on September 12th. I want to check myself, September 14th. And then the final hearing will be on September 21st. More information is going to be coming out to residents. Communications and marketing with Lynn. We have a schedule sent to that. We're going to start getting bits and pieces of information on social media for the public and let them know how to become involved in the process. We'll also be sending out a budget academy as well, and more information will come to that so the residents can hear about that for more engagement.
And Mayor, one thing I'd like to add is staff is working towards a balanced budget right now with no increase to our military. Thank you. It's getting late. And as minimal increases to any fees as possible. And we're still working through that process, but it is truly our intent to make sure we don't have an increase to our military.
Great. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Catherine. You're doing a great job. And your whole team. So we're on to Commissioner Communications. Vice Mayor.
Happy to go first.
Great, thank you.
I am grateful for all the speakers that came forward to express their viewpoints this evening, but there were a couple of comments made that I would like to address. The first speaker who commented that many people are leaving Coral Springs. I am a professional real estate agent and I can agree with you that many are leaving, but 5 more are coming right behind them. Multiple bids on properties, anything under 550, lines of people trying to get into homes in Coral Springs. And so you're right, it has changed. We're not the little town that it was when I moved here. 63,000 people, it's 130 now, not 200,000 as one other person said we had grown. It is a great place to live with a great city leadership and management. And I'm not talking me, I'm talking just everybody that's involved in making Coral Springs great. So I thought that was important to point out. The other comment about voter engagement, about just old people being in line. Well, as one of those old people, I understand the comfort of standing in line as we have done this for generations. But my point, I believe, why you're only seeing old people and not so many young people stand in line. Well, just today, I mailed 3 ballots for my family. It is so much easier to mail. So a younger generation probably is taking that route and mailing ballots rather than standing in a hot line. That's the way I go now. The compliment to our former city manager, we have had great city managers in the history of the city. We have a great city manager in the history of Coral Springs. But one part of that is very important to note is when Mike Levinson was the city manager, the city was building. So we had big budgets and lots of money. So there was money to do lots of things. And then we went through a financial crisis for one manager, or 2 managers actually. And now we have a manager that's having to deal with COVID. So there's always different scenarios that requires different leadership. So the bottom line is they're all good managers, very good. And lastly, well, 2 more points, but the conversations that we had, I'm very proud of all the moms that understood how great the Coral Springs Police Department is. Go moms. And lastly, to our residents, and for any issue, please do come forward, just like you said. But, you know, like you, I get those emails asking me to protest or to support various efforts or initiatives. And we have to keep in mind that those requests are one-sided. They're the one side of that opinion and don't usually always include both sides. They're all the research. So we have to be cognizant and look for the other side, because oftentimes there's one side of information, like it was rubber bullets when actually it's paint to practice with, and not the militarized weapons, but it's bean bags to disarm somebody without hurting them. So very, very important to me that we take the time to be aware of all the full value of the issues. And lastly, this is last, our community has a great need for giving. We currently have a campaign, Give Where You Live. And I thank everybody for their generosity and their thoughtfulness on donations where they have been able to give. The Coral Springs Community Chest has been supporting nonprofits in our community that provide needs to the members of our community since 1988. There is an application online right now and available for additional information at the coralspringscommunitychest.org for these charities and nonprofits where they can make application. Again, there's a great need in our community, and we invite those who may be able to donate and help keep members of our community moving forward and safe. So please go to that website and help out if you can. If you need to reach me, I'm at 954-998-4186 or Joy Carter at coralsprings.org. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So Joy, that website is communitychest.org?
coralspringscommunitychest.org.
coralspringscommunitychest.org.
Thank you for asking.
Great. Thanks for the reminder. I'll be sending a donation tomorrow. Great. Who'd like to go next? Commissioner Simmons, yes?
Sarah.
1 second, y'all.
Not quite. To me, that's the best picture I've seen all day. You holding the baby.
Okay, so one thing I'll say, first thing I'll say, kudos to the staff and Honor Flight South Florida for putting together that wonderful event. I think it was really great. I had a great time talking to Dennis Berger and his family. He was 19 years old when he went into Vietnam. So he can only do one tour, but think about that, the fact that, during that time, there was just such a strong anti-war movement, during that time period. And so a lot of those men who went over there, military members that went over there, didn't come back to the hero's welcome. And, that was one of those times where politics and personal pains kind of dominated some of the personal sacrifices that some of those folks made. So it was just really cool that we honored him. He was very misty-eyed and teary-eyed, and he was just so grateful to have that welcome from the city. So kudos to everyone and the brains behind that, because that was just really great. And I'm glad that he's also lived less than a mile away from me. So I was able to just shoot on over there and go right back home. So thank you for that. As far as voter engagement, I think our city, we do as best as we can to get the information out there. Obviously, like I'm a big proponent of, and Frank always says this, there's always room for improvement, but please know that I think we are one of the better cities when it comes to letting residents know about, different times to vote and things of that nature. And, there have been plenty of commission meetings where we spoke about our signage issues. And, I may have spoken just from the standpoint of election signs and things of that nature. So again, do we do everything perfect? No, we do not. But, we are ahead of the game and supportive of many issues that our residents have here in this city. Other than that, I'm probably missing something. I don't know. I love everybody. I just really want everything to be done the right way. I want people to be taken care of, but I also want people to challenge themselves. And if you have heard and listened to me and some of my colleagues, over the last couple of months, then you will really truly know where our hearts are when it comes to a lot of the issues dominating society right now. So please wear your mask and have a great rest of your week.
Great. So that reminds me, before I call on you, Commissioner Vignola, one of the speakers talked about what are we doing for voter engagement? And I would love for us to push forward a campaign that encourages people to be safe and not necessarily have to go to a ballot box by asking for that absentee ballot. And remind people you don't have to be absent to vote by absentee ballot. BrowardSOE.org. If you email them, you can easily get an absentee ballot by mail, send it in by mail, and not have to be concerned about potentially contracting the virus by going out. Some people will prefer still to go out in person, and I'm going to give myself the option of mailing mine in. Sometimes I do one, sometimes the other. But if there's a way we can engage in a campaign to really encourage the vote, both for August and November, I would like to take up that resident on their challenge to us.
Mayor, maybe not on this call because it is getting late, but at our next commission meeting, I can have Lynn give an overview of our voter campaign. We have a complete campaign put together for voting. Great,
thank you. Commissioner Vignola.
First off, Commissioner Simmons, I know you love everyone, but we love you. And I miss you guys. I know this is just kind of weird for me still, but I want to thank staff and Frank and our police and fire chiefs and everyone for participating in the honor flight on Saturday. I was very lucky. I was assigned randomly to somebody I've known since the 80s when I was probably 5 or 6 years old, Dennis Klein. It was great to go over to his house and be there with his family and stuff. And he was just truly moved, and the tears did flow a little bit. And I want to thank you, Dennis, for your years of service to our nation. And it was awesome to see you and to spend a little bit of time with you. I haven't seen you in a little bit, so that was great. And he called me on Monday to thank the city for participating, and it was very nice. It was nice to see all the city staff that participated in that did not have to. One thing I want to talk to everyone about is when you're out there and everyone's wearing masks and trying to be as careful as possible, please understand that the way masks were developed were not the way technically like we're using them. So when you see certain masks, you hear N95 and things like that, they were meant to protect the person that was wearing from dust particles and those types, right? And then they realized that over time in the medical community that they had a use there. So when they created masks with vents, right, that's to protect someone from breathing in dust and those things, but be able to breathe out the heat and moisture. That sometimes people say it's a little bit more difficult to wear. To be honest with you, I was out in the heat probably for about 8 hours on Saturday, wearing a mask the entire time without a vent. But a lot of stuff out there talking about vents, and when someone goes ahead and they cough or they breathe out one of those vents, they say the virus would shoot out almost like a bullet. It's almost more dangerous to be around somebody with a vented mask. I'd ask the city commission staff to look into that and maybe talk to the county about adding vented masks as part of their executive order and educating our residents that if you're wearing a vented mask or someone around you is wearing a vented mask, that don't social distance at 6 feet. I would urge you to social distance a lot further away. And that, I know it sounds kind of weird or whatever, but this virus is spreading. And if we don't start doing something a little bit more serious and people don't start taking this even more serious than they are, I'm afraid that we're going to end up in another shutdown type situation, and we're going to really hurt our communities. We're going to hurt economically, not just businesses, but employees across the board. So I really cannot urge everybody enough to please be careful, social distance. Please don't go to parties, having extended family members and stuff over. They're showing that a majority, I think they said 80% of the community spread in Broward County is traced back to families because people are going ahead and visiting cousins and this and that and whatever. So one person gets it, it goes into your household and then spreads to anyone else that you're visiting families and stuff. So I just urge our residents to really, really be careful. And I just want to touch base on a couple other things, COVID related. Of the almost 3,000 minors in Broward County that have tested positive for COVID-19, almost 60% have been in the last 2.5 weeks. I think that's kind of a scary number. 31% of children that have been tested statewide have tested positive, compared to 11% overall. Dr. Alina Alonso, the Palm Beach County's Health Department director, said that they're seeing that there's damage to the lungs of asymptomatic children. She also warned of how that damage potentially is going to manifest in years to come. Dr. Jorge Perez, the co-founder of Kids Medical Services, that early evidence suggests that some children infected with the virus could have lasting lung damage. Please be careful. I know, when I was young, when I was, 15, 16, 17 years old, you think you're invincible, not invisible. That'd be a little scarier. But you don't realize that some of these decisions that you're making when it comes to COVID and going over friends' houses and things like that, you're not just potentially endangering your family because you're young. You could end up with some serious health complications because of this. So I just want everyone to understand that, the one thing that we do know about this virus is we don't know much at all. It's not worth the risk. Please be careful, social distance. Don't be having house parties, wear your masks. I probably shouldn't promote a company on this, but one of the cool things I saw out there is Under Armour's created a mask that some professional athletes are wearing when they are out there and competing and they have a wide receiver from the New Orleans Saints that's running routes and it stays cool, stays off your face a little bit. Do some research out there on masks and things and see what works best for you. But please be careful. And with that, I want to thank kind of like our Coral Springs COVID team with Frank and Dr. Intevi and Alex and Chief Bader and everyone involved in putting information out there. We have a former city manager, not from the city of Coral Springs, but currently lives in the city of Coral Springs, who told me, and he's got homes kind of all over. He told me he is amazingly impressed with the job that the city of Coral Springs has done through this. And he's very, very proud to call Coral Springs home. And I just want to share that with you guys. One thing I want to ask about that's kind of not COVID related. I know FPL is going around and they're putting in the LED lights, not just on some of the main roads you see on University Drive. I know they're doing Atlantic Boulevard in certain areas. I'd like to see what we can. I know they're doing some other cities about reaching out to them and seeing an LED light plan for inside the neighborhoods within our community. I still think street lights is kind of an issue in our community, and you see trees that are blocking street lights that makes areas dark and less safe for pedestrians that are out there walking at night. Also, when it comes to any type of criminal activity, more light is better. So if any of our residents see any street lights or whatever that are out, there's a number on that. If you go ahead and report that to the city, we pay, our tax dollars pay for those lights, whether they're on or not. So please go ahead and report that. And Mr. City Manager, if we can get a report back on the LED lights and see what FPL's game plan is to bringing them into the neighborhoods and throughout the city of Coral Springs. I would really appreciate that at some future date. And if anyone would like to reach me, and those of you guys that came in and called at the beginning of our meeting, thank you. Whether we agree on an issue or not, I think it's awesome that we have people out there that are trying to have their voices heard. I think that's so important, and continue a dialogue. If you ever like to speak, like I said earlier, we have a very, very accessible commission. We all give out our phone numbers. We all meet with residents at all times. If you'd like to speak with me on an issue related to the city, even if you disagree with me, it's okay. Feel free to give me a call. My cell phone number is 954-632-7544, and I'd love to hear from you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Vignola. Thanks for welcoming disagreement, and thanks for the caution about COVID-19. It's great to work with you, Commissioner. Commissioner Sarah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome Jill Brown, our newly appointed Coral Springs Museum Director. She comes with 3 degrees, a vast array of experiences, and she's off and running. I'm very excited, and I know that she's going to take us to the next level, so welcome. I want to give kudos to our grants department. I just read a report that we have explored a little under $29 million. We've applied for a little under $25 million, and we've secured about $2.5 million already, and we have a lot of pending. So this is important for our residents to know that we're working very hard within the grants department. They've taken it to another level of the past 12 months, and I'm very confident that we'll reap the benefits, and this will help keep our budget in line. Kudos to the Safety Town team. Safety Town's been around for 30 years. Mary Boast has done just a phenomenal job facilitating and managing that over the years. But the residents need to know that Safety Town, despite the fact that we can't be there in person, is still alive and well, thanks to the police community involvement unit, and then also our community and marketing department. They've created curriculum, videos, and instructional books, and Safety Town is alive and well, and I'm looking forward to participating in that this summer. Just a reminder that the Mayor's Town Hall is on the 21st. This is a great opportunity for you to reach out and give us your thoughts and input. It starts at 7 p.m. I have to give kudos also to our public service department. Just a few stories. Our police department and our detectives successfully solved a case around social media, and it was a predator that was not in the local area, but that was prying on one of our youths. And parents, this is incredibly important. I know you guys are all working hard to educate and inform your sons and daughters. I have 3 kids. I know it's impossible to know what's going on all the time. There's been times that I've been surprised by some of the things that they were diving into, but the do's and the don'ts, you got to have that discussion. Make sure you educate them, set expectations. And if you're not feeling comfortable or they're not feeling comfortable, please, please, please reach out to our police department, our detectives, our city, your commissioners will point you in the right direction and get you help. Also on June 13th, our fire department, brave men and women, went into the Briarwood 3 apartment complex on the 9th floor of 10 and successfully put out a pretty dangerous fire in one of the apartments. It was pretty cool to read a letter written by the association, signed by some residents, thanking them. I mean, this is a perfect example of public service and why we need to invest and support our local heroes. And then lastly, I mean, if it's not a fire or social predator, we saved a dog in the middle of the lake. So I'm proud that Teddy's still alive. Fire department and dive boat went out there and got him before he was on his last kick. And I hear he's furry and doing well. Also, I need to give props to our staff for an outstanding 4th of July parade. It was an honor to participate. It was really cool to see a lot of residents out there. And I hope that as a city, we can set that as a tradition. I will say, though, that we need to educate all of our residents because there was some fireworks going off at like 1 o'clock in the morning. We need to abide by the noise ordinances and do our part to be respectful to everyone that is around us. Like the commissioner said, we need to remain socially distanced, make sure you're wearing your face coverings. Please remain safe and healthy. And I want to close by saying it was a tremendous honor to be with Orville Wetzel during the honor flight parade. It was really cool to meet Jerry and Michael, his daughter and son-in-law, and to hang out with Gary, his son. And it was just a tremendous event. And for everyone that participated and make that happen, from the police chief to the fire chief to city manager to all of the honor guard or honor flight support team, and even Mission Barbecue. I mean, it was really a privilege to be a part of. If you have any questions or concerns, please continue to reach out to me. My cell phone number is 954-612-7114. Thank you.
Thank you. So a few items for me to cover. One is I'm going to share a little bit of a 8-day-old article from Berkeley News. For some individuals with COVID-19, recovering from the acute phase of the infection is only the beginning. Worrying reports now indicate that the virus may be capable of inflicting long-lasting damage to the lungs, heart, and nervous system. And researchers are watching to see if kidneys, liver, and gastrointestinal tract may be susceptible to permanent damage as well. There's just so many unknowns about this disease. Better to be safe than sorry. One of the reasons early on we decided to go virtual, not quite sure exactly what's happening, is what if we saved one life, or saved one person from getting infected and damaged by having a virtual meeting. So that was enough to not meet in person. So I'm not meaning to scare you. We're not meaning to scare you, but we do want to share with you information. And with the numbers going up this high, we all have to unite, keep each other responsibly accountable in a dignified way. You're not making a political statement by, putting your mask down. You're putting others at risk. And there's no political solution to COVID. It's a community solution. It's a scientific solution. And we're just asking you to cooperate, bring the numbers down, stay safe, social distance, wear the mask. Let's bring the numbers down, and let's not put our first responders, our nurses at more risk than they have to be. And if you can stay home, and you are staying home, we really appreciate that. We really appreciate that. That goes a long way for all of us. And we don't want to get to the point where the numbers continue to go up for the next week, 2 weeks. And now all of a sudden we have to shut things down, or the county has to shut things down. You can be responsible. We can take this as a community and be respectful of the rules, honor them. And if you're seeing a violation, let us know. It's not just 311 you can call. You can call 344-1800. Can people call code directly as well, Frank, or it's better to call the 1800 number?
Len, can you tell us the non-emergency number we have set up for that, please?
Sorry, I was trying to get by the way, can I just comment on everybody's background? You look so uniformed and amazing. Thank you. And remember, census. For reporting anything, while you can report it to 311, I do want to give you our business hotline number. You can report there. You can always report it to 954-344-1001, and they'll direct you to the right parties. Sometimes you just need more information on what the rules and regulations are. Thank you.
Great, I appreciate that. I know, Frank, we're not participating in that SOB campaign. Any update on a buy local campaign, or is that for another day?
Len, don't go anywhere. That's probably for another day, Mayor, but I know Len has been working with Christy Bartlett to bring a robust campaign forward. So if you'd like a quick update now, we can do that, or if you want to save it for next week.
If you could do it in 1 minute, that'd be great.
I'll do it in less than 1 minute. Buy like an SOB doesn't really fit with Coral Springs brand. We've really looked into it. working alongside the chamber. So we've come up with other solutions, which include you and the commission in helping us in various ways. So we'll go ahead and present that next week when we have
Great.
more time for the rest of the commission.
Thank you. I want to reiterate Sean's request, open town hall meeting, first one in all the 9-10 years that I've been serving. And it's a great opportunity for you to be heard during COVID about social issues, about the budget. So it's next Tuesday, the 21st at 7 p.m. Lynn, do you have to register in advance? How can people attend this meeting?
So just like you're watching this meeting, Mayor, you do not have to register. The only people that are actually going to be on the Zoom will be the panelists and certain staff members. So if you're watching this live stream, you can also watch it on City TV, but then we're also going to be live on the city's Facebook page, and that's where we're going to be taking those questions. So I really recommend if you have Facebook, you can log on that way, but you can always send us your questions in advance.
So I'm going to recommend, thank you, Lynn. I'm going to recommend to our residents that you get onto our Facebook account. That is one of the best ways to get information about us, about what the city's doing, the information we have, what's coming up in the city, and share that with people you know. If we can reach our residents through you assisting us, we have 132,000. You know, tonight, while on one end we had a lot of speakers, we don't normally have 21 speakers. There are many people that are staying home, and it's another way to get people engaged and ready to vote in about 1 month, maybe even less than a month. Forget exactly when in August the election is, and then in November. So we want to connect with you, and just like Commissioner Vignola said, you can contact any one of us, and if there's a disagreement, we're happy to listen. We love our jobs. We love connecting with you. We want to do everything we can for our city to keep you safe, to keep you healthy, and keep you happy. I love what Vice Mayor Carter was talking about in terms of the homes, 1 out and 5 people interested. So there's, despite what's going on in the world, we live in a very, very unique community. We are diverse. We celebrate diversity. We're educated, we care. Years ago, I remember applying to be a coach for the soccer league, CSYS, and there were 40 coaches too many. We had to turn away 40 volunteers. There's just so many ways that people give back in our community, and we really appreciate it. A couple more things. There is support for a universal background checks bill. And if you can share a little bit about that with us at our next workshop and for us to consider that as a resolution, I would appreciate that. Rapid testing. Frank, can you tell us what we're doing and how we can potentially get more rapid testing?
So Mayor, there's 2 different types of rapid testing. One is a antigen test that actually tests for the live virus within your saliva or nasopharyngeal airway. The other one is a antibody test that tests for antibodies within your system that are currently trying to fight the virus. The PCR test, the rapid test, the jury's still out on that. The accuracy levels of those rapid tests are lower. They're performing lower than anticipated. So there's still some honing that's needed in developing a more robust rapid test. They are available. However, most medical professionals will tell you that if you do take a rapid test, you should probably follow it up with a standard PCR test that goes to a lab. As far as the antibody testing goes, City of Coral Springs is currently involved in a study that we are working with 7 other cities in Broward County to validate some of the rapid antibody tests that are out there. And we're well along in that study and hopefully should have something very soon as far as approvals go from the Department of Health and also the FDA. Although these tests are FDA approved, we want to make sure the accuracy of them. So when we're testing with these tests, we're typically doing 2 or 3 different types of tests to test for the accuracy. So right now, the best testing is still a typical PCR test where they're either doing a throat swab or nasal swab. We do have a test that is emerging that may be available in the next couple of weeks. So we're waiting to hear. That is a test that you actually spit into a cup. So it's a non-invasive test that goes to a lab and gets tested. The specificity and the accuracy on that test is much the same as the other tests that are out there right now. So we're still looking at different testing options and should have something very soon on that.
On our website, do we list what testing sites and locations are available, including, different medical offices that provide it?
The testing sites are available on our website, the public testing sites. Alex, I don't believe we cover any of the private testing sites, but we do cover all the, oh, we do? Okay, so the private and public testing sites are all on our website.
Okay, awesome. So I also want to compliment our city on the Veterans Parade, the Honor Flight celebration. It was great to be with Brent Keeproth and his family. There I go again, losing my light. He actually turned 75 that day, so it was also his birthday. And it was just very special for him and his family. And it was very special for me to be a part of that. I think our veterans are so essential to our community, and anything we can do to celebrate them and acknowledge them, I really appreciate. And this was very, very special for Brent and his family. I have office hours this Friday. Typically during COVID, it's every Friday, usually from 12 to 1:30. And you can contact Luam at 344-5906 to set them. It's not the only way to get in touch with me. As with everybody else here, you can have my personal cell. It's 954-494-9872. And if I can't get back with you right away, try me again. Don't stay on ceremony with me. I'm happy to be here for you and with you. It's an honor to serve as your mayor. It's an honor to serve with this commission and the team, and just proud to be part of such a proactive, loving community. And that's all I have. So we're on to city manager's communication, Frank.
Mayor, coralsprings.org. Any of the residents that want any information related to COVID, coralsprings.org has a ton of resources and information on our website. I'm going to try to be a brief here. You guys touched on collectively on what's going on with the COVID cases. One of the things that we do want to make sure is that we're ensuring the continuity of operations for the city. So what we implemented this week is we went to limited access to our facilities. Now we're still open for business. We're still doing everything service-wise that we normally would do. We're just doing it remotely. This is the same process we're following for our staff. If staff works in one set of buildings, they're not going over to the other set of buildings. We're trying to keep the continuity of the household, if you will, so we're not spreading COVID back and forth should somebody have it. We do have robust testing procedures in place for staff. We have safety officers that are in place for the city that are constantly monitoring staff to make sure that our workforce is staying as healthy as possible. And looking after for their safety and wellness. This is all being done while we still operate under the incident command structure. We've been doing so since March 13th, and we will continue to do so for the duration of this event. Coral Springs cases are going up. We have just over 1,300 cases in Coral Springs right now. One of the things that we do as a team is we have a data and analytics team, planning and analytics team, part of the incident command structure that's constantly looking at the numbers and the trends. We don't make decisions based on single day numbers. We look at trends and we look at where things are going from several different data sources to make recommendations to the commission or make decisions on operations. So we'll continue to do that. We do have several testing sites in Coral Springs. Mullins Park is still open. That testing site was originally designed to do 250 tests a day. We're averaging 650 tests a day out of that site. So there is a big demand, as Nancy pointed out earlier in the call, there is a big demand for testing, and we plan on supporting testing as long as it's needed. There's also a pop-up site out at Publix at Coral Ridge and Sample. And our emergency manager, Alex, has done a great job with the testing for the public, and he will continue to look. I know him, and he'll continue to look for innovative ways to continue to bring testing to Coral Springs, and we'll have some more information on that in the near future. We continue to work with our most vulnerable population. Commissioner Vignola hit on this earlier. We're seeing this illness hit a lot of our younger population, but we still need to protect that vulnerable population, the older folks within our community, as well as those that are immune compromised. Our fire department continues to work through the incident command structure to make sure, along with our medical director, that we're constantly reaching out to places of concern to make sure they have the proper procedures and PPE in place to keep their residents safe. We're constantly meeting with the county staff. We're constantly meeting with hospital staff and making sure that we have a good understanding of what's going on in our community right now. The one thing I can tell you is, and I think Commissioner Vignola talked a little bit about this as well, is there is an increase in hospitalizations. So we're keeping a very close eye on that to make sure that the hospitals not only have the bed capacity, but they also have the supply capacity and the workers to care for the people that are sick. And we're going to do whatever we can to help our hospital partners out. And we have a very good relationship with our local hospital here. One of the most important reasons to prevent the spread of the virus is to make sure that we don't overwhelm that hospital system. So as you guys have all said before, please make sure you're practicing good hygiene. Make sure you're social distancing, make sure you're wearing the proper face coverings. And if you don't feel well, please stay home. You don't need to be out in the public, possibly contaminating others. So I want to close with the commission as a whole has said and given comments about the staff. We are fortunate enough to have some of the most amazing staff anywhere. It's an honor to work with all of them, and they continue to impress me. They continue to just look for new and innovative ways to serve their community without being asked. And I'm very, very appreciative of all the work they do, and I'm appreciative of the support that you provide them to do their work. So thank you.
It's our pleasure. Thank you, Frank. John, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor. I have two items, both resolutions. The first is a resolution that Commissioner Sarah brought up on June 17th, and the commission gave direction to go ahead and move forward with this resolution, which is expressing opposition to offshore drilling. So I'll read that resolution. The resolution of the City Commission of the City of Coral Springs, Florida, expressing its opposition to offshore drilling activities, including seismic air gun blasting, authorizing and directing the city clerk to transmit a copy of this resolution to the appropriate officials, providing for an effective date. So this is, as the title says, this is offshore drilling in the Atlantic and opposing that. So looking for a motion.
Commissioner Sarah, you want to make the motion?
I would like to move the resolution, please, Mr. Mayor.
Yes. Great. Wonderful. Commissioner Vignola, you want a second?
Yes, sir.
Great. Any discussion? Thanks for being so responsive. Thanks for being proactive, Commissioner Sarah. Excellent. I like us taking a lead here with the resolution. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Carries unanimously. Thank you.
Mayor, the next item is Resolution 2020-36. I'll read the title and give you the background. A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Coral Springs, Florida, authorizing the appropriate city officials to execute the as-is residential contract for sale and purchase between the City of Coral Springs and Aten Oliveira in the amount of $333,000 for the conveyance of real property known as Lot 7, Block C of the Glenwood subdivision, according to the plat thereof, is recorded in Plat Book 69 at page 33 of the Public Records of Broward County, Florida, commonly known as 11461 Northwest 43rd Street, in accordance with Section 2-11 of our Code of Ordinances and providing for an effective date. Request to approve this resolution. And the history of it, Mayor, is this was a youth treatment facility that did not fit the character of the neighborhood. First, there was an all-girls treatment facility, and then it became an all-boys treatment facility. It got to the point where actually, when you looked at the police calls to locations, this was often second behind a Walmart and in front of a mall, of our mall, for the amount of calls that went out there. It clearly just wasn't appropriate for that neighborhood. There was an opportunity to have that moved by a sale and a deed restriction, which was agreed to. And 2 years ago, we had a resolution approving the purchase of it, and a public hearing was required for that. And so during this 2 years, we have received it, and the purchase price, so you know, when we bought it was $407,000. When we got the property, it was a mess inside. It was a triplex that was converted to one big roaming house. The estimate was $260,000. We used a broker, Jim Nardi from Advent Asset Management. I say his name because I see he's been on since 6:30. So thank you, Jim, for being here. The recommendation was to list it on May 1st and do it 60 days and just take any and all bids. Due to the character of it, we wanted an as-is. We received the highest bid was at $333,000. That's a cash offer, proof of funds, and there's no contingencies. All inspections have been conducted in advance of the buyer's offer. And so we're looking to try to close this. This just kind of came up, and in order to close it in a timely manner, I walked it on here. But this is something that the community has been aware of, the commission 2 years ago, and we've been working on it. So we're looking for a motion to approve that resolution.
Great. Commissioner Vignola?
Move to approve. Very, very happy to move that.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Sarah. So is this extra money that we'll have in the budget for this year, or it goes into a particular fund?
Mayor, this will go back into the general fund. That's where the funds came out of to purchase the property. So this will go back to that fund.
Gotcha. All right. Any further discussion, Vice Mayor?
Staff knows that I wasn't thrilled with pricing, but and particularly the loss. However, the loss to our police department and police services, it overrides it. So I'm ready to vote.
Commissioner Vignola.
My first ride along with the Coral Springs Police Department back in, I think, 2009 or 2010, we ended up at that place, I think, 3 or 4 times that evening.
Wow.
It was Friday night, and it was nonstop problems. And it wasn't just problems for our police department, but for all the neighbors that live there and around them. When there are fights and arguments and all those types of things taking place there at 1, 2 in the morning, think about how that terrorized that entire neighborhood. So yes, we did take a loss on this. However, I think this was a great outcome across the board to get rid of an issue like that. And I want to thank Mr. Nardi for his hard work on our behalf to make sure that this went as smoothly as possible. And Jim, I do want to apologize. We normally do not go close to 10 o'clock at night in the city of Coral Springs. So I apologize, but thank you for your work for us.
Jim, do you want to say anything? You don't have to.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Vice Mayor and Commissioners and City Attorney. No, I'm pleased to do this work for you folks, and I'm happy to present this and hopefully get this closed in a quick fashion.
Great, thank you very much. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Anything else, John?
That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you all for bearing with us this late. Great meeting, everybody. We're doing some great and important work, and just wish everybody stays safe, stays positive, not COVID positive, mentally positive. And we'll see you hopefully on Tuesday night at the Mayor's Town Hall. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.